There's only one way to wake up in the morning.
How the heck are you?
Yep, that's it. Miller.
But since we can't sit next to one another, I was thinking about the first break, toasting my English muffin and saying, hey, it's English muffin time during the starting five.
And Moulton.
Love BOGO English muffins. You throw one on the counter, you throw the other in the freezer.
There you go.
For a week, then you take it out. When you've got BOGO, it's like, hey,
Knock yourself out.
Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
Yes! Oh, I like
It's up to you now. It's up to you.
I like
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
How the heck are you, Miller and Moulton? Final day of July, final day before we go on vacation. Mark's already dancing. If you're watching on YouTube or twitch.tv, how are you on this Friday? Your week going okay? I hope so. It's been a very eventful sports week, that is for sure. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com. Broadcasting live, as we've already mentioned, on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and twitch.tv channels. You can chime into the show on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. Mark, you ready?
Oh, man, am I ready. You have no idea how ready I am.
You packed up?
Pretty much, like 95%. You know, the toiletries, the last bit things. But, yeah, all in all, got to make a run to Total Wine, get a couple bottles of bourbon. Well, I'm going to North Carolina, and they've got ABC stores, and that's a pain in the butt to buy booze, so sneaking it in.
Right, I understand. Hey, I'm an Irish Catholic. I'm not going to judge anybody bringing booze with them. I just think it's funny. So last-minute stuff, yeah, toiletries and bourbon.
Yeah. Already got the beer and wine. Just have to get the booze now.
You lean over, you look in the back seat, you say to the daughter, yeah, I know it's cramped there for you. What is this next to me? Those are the cases of beer. Don't worry about it, all right?
Just use it as a table, honey.
Exactly. Just lean up against it. Use it as, pretend there are a couple pillows.
Just take the seatbelt, run it through the top of the case, and then right in and latch it in.
Rest your head on top of it. Yeah, Daddy, but it's cold. That's all right. Don't worry about it. We'll get you a blanket. 479-5551 is how you can chime in on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. Call or text in at 479-5551.
I swear to you that yesterday was like a flashback to the 80s because I do not know the last time that I watched two NBA games back-to-back.
The only thing missing was Marv Albert, John Tesh, and the music. Is that?
Yeah, I was even thinking O'Brien there. I'm even going a little CBS. So, but yeah, whatever.
You're going old school. You're going Dick Stockton, CBS in the 80s.
Right. Whatever floats your boat. But that's what I felt. Two things. One, that I'm yelling at the TV why they don't have Zion in the game.
Yeah, you and everybody else.
Late. I'm going, you're serious? You need a bucket here. Get the big fella in. He's 6 of 8 from the floor.
Yeah, he's scoring a point a minute, and you're not playing him. Now would be a good time.
But I'm fine with the minutes. But at the end of the game,
I'm not.
I know you.
No, come on now. Hey, hold on a second. First off, supposedly, he lost 25 pounds. He's in the best shape of his life. He looks great, this, that, and the other thing. All right. He's, 19, 20 years old? What is the difference between 15 and 20 minutes? You got to win these games if you're New Orleans. You're fighting just to get in the play-in situation.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I took it as you don't like the minute restriction, period.
Oh, I thought it was stupid. I'm sorry. It's ridiculous.
I don't, because he was out of the bubble for the 12 days and missed 4 days, and there was a long break there. I don't have as big a problem with the totality of reducing his minutes. But in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes left to game and you're in a tight game, he can't be sitting on the bench.
Well, there you go. I remember in the Bulls series there, Jordan was talking about his first year, and down the stretch they had a minutes restriction on him. And he said, well, then, hold me until the very end. And if I'm only playing 18 minutes, play me for the last 18 minutes. And the one game they did, but he hit his minutes restriction, and you heard the horn, and he had to come out of the game, and there was like a minute and a half to go in the game, and he's like, "Are you kidding me?" I couldn't believe it. 3 minutes to go in the game. There they are. It's a one-possession game either way. They don't have Zion on the floor. I'm sorry.
That's like I said, during the game, I'm like, all right, I don't like it, but they have their reasons, and I'm not going to try to sit here and armchair quarterback their reasons. But I will in the final 3 minutes when you're in a tight game. And you had the lead and lost it basically because he came out of the game.
Yeah, because you couldn't get a bucket down the stretch.
And they could not get a bucket. They would, 1 point in 4.5 minutes, something like that?
Right. And meanwhile, he's a point a minute. I mean, something as stupid as if you play him coming out of the last TV timeout, you're playing, well, TV timeout, but you know what I mean. That, you're playing him for the final 3 minutes. Well, he's probably going to get a bucket or two for you down the stretch. You lost by 2. I'm sorry. That's coaching. I put that one. That one's on the Pelicans organization. Sorry. I mean, do I care if New Orleans? I think it'd be cool to see Memphis, New Orleans in the play-in situation. Ja Morant, Zion, top 2 picks in last year's draft. I think that'd be cool. We've been there. Portland's at San Antonio. A couple of those teams are in the group to get in that 8-9 situation. I wouldn't mind it being the kids. I think that'd be interesting.
Look,
the Lakers are going to take either one out.
If the Lakers want to beat the Pelicans in 4, I'd much rather watch the Pelicans get beaten 4 than Memphis. And I like Memphis' team as well. But Zion is the budding star of the league.
Right.
There is something about the way the man looks that is menacing. Even with the weight loss, he still just looks like someone that you could put him at linebacker. You could put him in the MMA ring. You could put him damn near anywhere. And you think, yeah, I think that might work.
I know. You're looking at him and you're thinking to yourself, boy, if we could rush him off the edge.
Yeah. I mean, like when people started putting LeBron in and I'm not comparing him to LeBron, but when they put LeBron in the football jersey and he said he could play tight end, you look at Zion and you go, man, what couldn't this guy do?
Right.
It's just what a specimen. And he looks better now with the weight loss. I mean, he just looks like a tough SOB that you don't want to mess with.
Imagine tackling that guy, catches it down the seam. Ooh, you're a safety.
That little alley-oop dunk that he threw down, and I don't know how much anybody watched, but I mean, his ability to get up quickly is scary.
I'm telling you, he's a big Barkley. He's a big Barkley. And he'll probably have to deal with his weight like Barkley did too. But boy, when Barkley didn't have the extra 20 pounds on him, he was flat unstoppable. And he was undersized on the block. And here's Zion.
And this guy's bigger and stronger and jumps better than Barkley ever thought of. And that's not this guy can leap. So it is worth watching. By the way, for the record, for all of you scoring at home, the underdogs in the NBA last night were 2-0.
Yeah, Moulton got 2 right.
Yes, you did.
Moulton
couldn't
said,
understand it.
Couldn't understand it at all. Thought the Clippers have, with the injuries that the Lakers have and the one guy sitting out, I thought, how could you not take the Clippers in the 4? And just said, Utah's a better team than New Orleans. And I did say, and they're better coached. And yes, I don't know if they were the better team last night, but they were better coached. I'll tell you that. So, yeah, the underdogs 2-0 so far in the NBA. It's good to know. Early betting
trends, betting trends. You want to stay up in that.
Sure.
Very important.
By the way, the monologue on Miller and Moulton today brought to you by Peels. Peels, that cool, refreshing taste. Have a Peels.
Excellent. You'll catch up with that as the show goes on today. Lots of new sponsors to talk about throughout the show today.
Plenty of room, though, for active sponsors. All right, to join in. Feel free to reach out to either Miller or Moulton. All right, you could text us, you could tweet us, DM us, whatever, and don't worry, we'll make you part of the festivities. But right now, it's Jimmy Breslin, all right, pouring a nice cold Peels, even at this hour, a way to get your weekend started.
One show till vacation if you haven't figured it out already.
Was nice to have the NBA back, though. I got to be honest. It's nice to have live sports, and it was nice to have. I got to be honest. I was impressed with the level of play. I so far. I mean, it was one night, but I don't know how many people stayed up for it. Fortunately, it tipped at 9 Eastern, so it was over in 11:30-ish. But the final quarter and a half of the Lakers Clippers was played at a very high level. Guys making shots, guys going after it. It was good for those of us that have complained about the NBA and the style of play and how it looks. Let me tell you, that was fun.
Good for you. I'm glad you did. I did not make it to the final quarter. I mean, I made it as long as I could.
It was outstanding. Outstanding.
Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing Talk and Text Line. I do love these texts, David, because you're right. Basketball was back. We've got baseball. Bryson DeChambeau was complaining about rules again yesterday.
Fire ants. Blankety blank is complaining about fire ants.
I hate him. I'm sorry. I'm fascinated by him. I enjoy watching him.
Wuss.
He is the biggest you-know-whaty that I've ever seen. Now, I don't know, and I wish, part of me wishes McNeil wasn't at the Barracuda. But I'm pretty certain, and I almost know this to a fact, that there's now it might be on Zoom, but there's some sort of pre-tournament meeting where they go through any local rules that are going on.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, maybe it's possible that Bryson DeChambeau, through all of his golf, has never came across a fire ant hill in his life. He plays really nice country clubs, and maybe their superintendents have all done such a fine job that a fire ant hill has never appeared.
Wow.
He is sitting there we all know what fire ants look like in Southwest Florida. I mean, this is there's no one listening right now that doesn't have a clue what I'm talking about. That's the one good thing. And he's sitting over, his ball is resting on some loose impediments. He's got a twig and a couple of sticks. And look, this is going to be an ugly shot.
No doubt.
Because of where the ball is. He hit it a little squirrely, and he got a bad break. Because this ball is right up next to a tree branch, and if he moves the branch, the ball moves, and he's going to get a penalty.
Right. A solid contact here is going to be hard. You got to figure you're only going to get about 80% contact on this shot.
And he knows it. Mm-hmm. So instead of just taking his medicine, hitting the shot, he has to call over a rules official.
Right.
And he
trying to work the system here.
And he claims that there's an animal hole near his ball. And the rules official, I happen to get lucky and had this on when it's going on, because to not see it live does not do any of that. I cannot begin to tell the story as well as the 5 minutes unfolded, because I'm waiting for Nick Faldo to just say, shut up and hit the damn ball.
Nick is not a fan of DeChambeau either. If you watch CBS's golf coverage going back 2 years now, Nick is not enamored with DeChambeau's
approach to life, the game, and anything else.
Exactly.
And
correct.
So he's over this shot by a tree, and he's like, there's an anthill here. and the rules official has this look on his face like, what in the hell are you talking about? And so they go back and forth for a while.
Right.
And finally he says, well, just take your stance, Bryson. Can you just take your stance? Well, no, there's nothing really affecting it. And Bryson's now over the ball going, no, look, there's a red ant there.
Right.
There's a red ant there. And
right.
I'm sitting here going, dude, if your foot was near fire ants, there wouldn't be a red ant here and there wouldn't be a red ant there. There'd be 600 of them crawling up your flipping leg, you jerk.
Right.
And I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to work a rule.
Get a drop.
And there are all kinds, I will say about golf, there are ways to manipulate the rules in your favor. You're by a cart path. There's a bunch of we've all gotten away with the squirrely shot, and all of a sudden, hey, I'm next to a stake tree, guys. Don't know what to tell you. I get a drop here. It happens.
Well, yeah, like the back when you used to have spikes, okay, and the very back spike, okay, was just touching the edge of the cart path.
Oh,
like, yeah, I don't. Hey,
and your lie's buried. Sorry, I'm touching the cart path. This has affected my swing.
Right, I got to get a drop here. I got to get away from the path.
Who hasn't taken a little advantage of casual water in your stance before? We all know, because you can, fat guys like Moulton and I, we give it a little squish. Water comes up on a dry day sometimes.
And for those of you going old school, if you remember George Hendrick's batting stance, in which he had his left foot about 3 feet in front of his right foot. Okay, so Mark and I that was our stance, trying to get the USGA official to give us a drop. I looked a little crazy. You haven't seen me play. This is how I hit the ball.
Right. And so I knew what he was doing. And so did the rules official. I mean, make no mistake. And he's got to go through a 5-minute conversation of Bryson acting as if he's become a 6-year-old and does not understand any rules that have ever been played in the game of golf. I hate him. I'm fascinated by him. I like when he does well. I like him being in tournaments because I like being able to root against someone.
There you go. So you want him to contend, but not win.
Just choke like a dog.
So in other words, you want him to be our fantasy golf team. Okay.
Yes.
The guys that we all have who are racking up the top fives, but nobody can hold the trophy.
I'm searching more for Norman at Augusta, but you get the point. I don't go to Twitter to yell at athletes that often. I really don't. I've noticed that my last 3 rants, 2 of them have been about Bryson DeChambeau.
There you go. That's a tell, by the way. In the business, that's what we call a tell.
Wow.
Yep. Tell you what, though, he's great for the game.
He is terrific.
You to get this fired up about a golfer not named Tiger Woods is cool. Okay, and also, all right, that right now Bryson DeChambeau is the Houston Astros of the PGA Tour.
Yes.
All right. He's replaced Patrick Reed also. Patrick Reed is like walking up to some guy's elbow and going, how about that guy trying to get away with the rules? And everybody laughing. All right. That's what DeChambeau is right now. I mean, DeChambeau is playing golf as if he thinks everything is lift, clean, in place. There's a red ant there. And we're thinking to ourselves, unless this thing is like climbing up your club and biting you on your hand, and it's one of those bees that they're talking about that are in Washington that apparently can like rip the head off of all the other bees, unless this is like the killer ant that they're going to make a horror movie about. Grab your 7-iron and shut up. So NBA last night, Bryson DeChambeau by day, and overshadowing the fact that Brooks Koepka shot the best round of his life yesterday, at least in terms of score, at 62. And Ricky Fowler threw up a 63 on the board. 2 guys who, for the most part, have been terrible by their standards.
Brooks loves this course and plays really well there. So...
And also, Mark, come on, let's be honest. We should have been on the Koepka bandwagon. You know why? You know what next week is?
It's a major.
A major. And if anybody has figured out in the last couple years how to play the majors, it's Brooks Koepka. He has brought at least his B-plus game to the majors for about 2.5, 3 years now. So nice to see those 2 guys play well yesterday. But in these parts, Mark, you can argue the big story was, once again, college football and scheduling. Whoo-wee.
Little bombshell was dropped by the SEC that I think caught everybody by surprise yesterday.
I think it caught Greg Sankey and the ADs by surprise. If you read between the lines, Sankey went on Feinbaum's show late yesterday afternoon. You look at some quotes from coaches and ADs. At the end of the day, Mark, we're not very bright, but we did say 4 months ago, when it comes to college football, who ultimately is going to make the call on this?
The university.
The very top office.
The university presidents.
You're damn right. And they, in the SEC anyway, they didn't give a damn about these rivalry games out of conference. Didn't matter to them at all. Clemson and South Carolina have played for 111 consecutive years. There's only one college football rivalry that's played more consecutive years than Clemson and South Carolina. One. Wisconsin, Minnesota, by the way. 113 consecutive years. Think about everything they've played through. They've played through the Spanish flu. They've played through 2 world wars. They played through the Great Depression. They played through it all. They played through the fact that at times both programs have been so terrible that they might have wanted to raise their hand and just take a year off because they knew every game on their schedule was a loss. Mark, the last time Clemson and South Carolina didn't play, Teddy Roosevelt was president, and Henry Ford had just unveiled the Model T. They've played every year since 1909. And the day after the ACC goes, hey, we're willing. Come on, big boys, we're willing. They went, nah, we're good. We're good. We're going to try to get Vandy on the schedule instead. Yep. We're hoping for home and home with those Mississippi schools. That's what we're hoping for instead. Going to add a couple of games, but not you.
They'll freak out in South Carolina more than they'll freak out in Florida over this.
Yeah.
They're pissed in Florida. They're going to freak out in South Carolina. Today's sports radio in South Carolina is going to be angry.
Yes.
This
absolutely.
is give the phone numbers, put your feet up, and take callers for 3 hours.
I mean, this is, I truly believe there's going to be a movement at foot in South Carolina in which they are going to want to put pressure on those 2 schools to basically say, and the hell with your leagues, play the damn game.
Well,
take whatever consequences come from your league, because in South Carolina's case, in theory, their season could be done.
Thank you. I mean, the fact of the matter is South Carolina more than likely is not going to Atlanta.
Right.
Hey, now,
that's fair.
Now you would have to move here's the part that they threw in. When is the ACC championship? Because we've not gotten dates on this. There's a couple of big things that happened with the SEC's announcement yesterday. And we've got plenty of time to get to all of them. But the headlines are they're playing 10 conference games. The other headline is they're playing the conference championship game December 17th? 19th. I knew but the third Saturday in December.
Correct.
Which puts a couple of things out there. Why is it we couldn't have 8 teams in a playoff? Well, we didn't want to play a game before Christmas and mess with exams and do all of those things. Well, the SEC just got done telling us yesterday we don't have a problem playing a championship game essentially the week before Christmas.
Hey, it's a coronavirus year, Mark.
We don't go back. You know, it's one of our tried and tested rules on this show, David. One of the things that we've lived by. We live by a couple of things. Follow the money. We don't go backwards. We don't redo schedules.
I think we will in this case, though. I think we will in this case. We have talked openly about how many of the changes that baseball has made for this year that we think will stick in 2021 and beyond. I do think this little scheduling quirk is not something that will stick. I think the conference games, the conference is playing more conference games. I think this is going to be very well received by fans around the country, and they're going to put pressure on their conferences to play more conference games.
Totally agree with you. And all I am saying, David, I too believe that they will go back to the second week in December for championship games. All I am saying is their rationale behind not playing had to do with academics and all of these other things.
Yes.
And they've opened the door to play when the 18 playoff comes, whenever that is, David. We know it's coming. This opens the door to play that first round game, whether it's on campus, in cities, before Christmas. Give them 2 weeks before the semis. That's all I'm saying. I'm totally with you. They're not going to keep the SEC championship on this weekend. It'll go back.
And Mark, to further your point, the beautiful irony for the money people in the sport who are going to want to make some of these changes down the road is they're going to look at the university presidents and go, hey, you're the guys that moved the conference championship game that late in the season. Okay, the academic guys. So you don't have, and by the way, they do it on the other side. They do it in D2 and D3 and all that. They don't have a problem with it. So, get off this high horse. And also, as we have pointed out, there is nothing more disruptive to being a college student than participating in March Madness. I mean, try doing your midterms while being on a team that goes to the second week of the tournament. I mean, I will never forget the morning of FGCU's Sweet 16 game against Florida and being that Friday in Dallas and walking through the hotel and going, where are the guys? And being told, oh, they're all in study hall. And it was 2.5 hours of study hall. It was the morning of their Sweet 16 game. And I remember looking at the academic advisor going, boy, you guys aren't serious about athletics here, are you? And she just looked at me and I go, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Study today. They're playing the Sweet 16.
They wouldn't be doing this in North Carolina, young lady. That's all I got to tell you.
I looked right at her and I go, I'm telling you right now, the Gators aren't in study hall. That's all I got to tell you. They're not.
By the way, the ACC championship game does not have a date on it. It's an either or, the 12th or the 19th. How much do you think the SEC's move pushes the date to the 19th so that if they maybe wanted to, Clemson and South Carolina could squeeze one in on the 12th?
I don't think so. See, the 12th is Army-Navy week. If you were smart, if you were a conference, you would put your game on the 12th because Army-Navy does really well because they're the only game that day. I think you would do really well if you put your game after Army-Navy. But the other thing that the SEC did, and I know we got a break and we'll get into it in greater detail, but the SEC pushed the start of their season back. The ACC, I believe, when they made their announcement yesterday, Mark, or on Wednesday, that the ACC said that they're willing to start their games on September 12th. I think the ACC is willing to start their season 2 weeks earlier than the SEC. So I don't know if they need to push it as far back. And the ACC, I think, is angry at the SEC right now. I really do. They did what they did specifically to save those rivalry games. And the SEC president said, nah, we don't care. Florida State, Louisville, Kentucky, Clemson, South Carolina, Georgia Tech. Doesn't mean a damn thing does.
For 11 of them. I mean, there are 3 presidents that knew if they voted against it that they could damn near lose their job. But for the other 11, they didn't care.
Apparently, Florida and South Carolina lobbied hard behind the scenes. Hard. And got outvoted. Miller and Moulton. The starting 5 coming up, along with, a new sponsor to the show. We'll find out who it is coming up on the other side. Miller and Moulton on this final show before vacation. We're off next week. We'll be back on Monday the 10th with Phil Steele talking plenty of college football. By then, we should know everybody's schedule. Miller and Moulton. Thanks for waking up with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Great text last night, 9:46 p.m. I'm torn. I want the Rays to rally, but Mark Melanson was a fantastic guest.
Orlando Magic basketball is about.
He got a hell of a defensive play in that one. Did you see the first out in the 9th, David?
I did not.
I just didn't know if you had it on because it was. Guy just roped one to left, and whoever the left fielder is for the Braves,
Was it Acuna?
Is Acuna left field?
Hold on.
Made a just sick catch.
That's why Aaron's approves good people. Other stores won't.
Well, I'm guessing it looks like they moved Duvall from right to left in the late innings when they moved Acuna from center to right. So my guess is that Duvall made the catch.
Yeah, I'm watching it again right now.
Adam Duvall. My guess.
Let me see when I see the name because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. On the track. Yeah, on the track. Diving catch.
They cost less to run than gas heaters, and you won't have panels on your roof. Special pricing.
I didn't have volume on that one. I had volume on the hoop.
We're a family company.
I thought the product of the hoop was pretty decent. As far as the way the presentation, the broadcast, the whole thing.
Well, you get a little Kevin Harlan. And that's pretty good.
But even the first game didn't, I like the setup. Mm-hmm. What I think's really funny is when they run to save the ball, and now instead of going to the crowd, they're basically running through tunnels. There are parts of it that I just find funny. for lack of a better term.
Hundreds of new SUV models to choose from, all backed by our exclusive unlimited mile lifetime warranty. Pick out your favorite at NaplesNissan.com. Then come see us on Pine Ridge Road to find out the KBB.com current market value for your trade-in.
A lot of birthdays today, in case anybody was wondering. Not a lot of big events, a lot of birthdays. But I get to get one of David's favorite athletes in it.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Nice.
If KBB says 10, we'll give you 18. You must act fast, though. Visit NaplesNissan.com for full details. Offering select models with approved credit and cannot be combined.
We've got our good friend Tim Meister, owner of the Floor Meisters in Naples, on the phone. We're talking about their huge selection and great pricing on Core-Tec flooring. Tim, tell us what's new at the store.
Right now we have 90 colors of Core-Tec in stock, ready to go, pick up, put down as soon as you want it. Everything from starting at $299 on up with lifetime warranty.
And it's not just the many colors of Core-Tec that you have. You also have other Core-Tec products as well.
We also carry the Core-Tec stone product. Looks like tile, looks like stone, but it's Core-Tec, so you get the softness, quietness, and the easy installation to go with it. We also have Core-Tec wood. Look of wood, real wood, but with a more stable core for Southwest Florida's humidity.
If you haven't been to the Floor Meisters, you really owe it to yourself to visit the store. 6281 Naples Boulevard, right next to Costco, or go online, floormeisters.com. That's floormeisters.com.
Listen to the Dan Patrick Show at work.
Never boring, that's for sure.
Streaming 24/7 at foxsportsfm.com. We are Fox Sports.
This summer, freshen up lockdown.
Keep your mouth shut.
When a new cast moves into a house.
This is Big Brother.
Cut off from the world.
Why would you do that?
It's kind of like a quarantine.
What are the odds?
They'll make new friends, alliances, and enemies.
You do what you gotta do to win Big Brother.
And each week, somebody gets voted out.
These houses better watch out.
And it's also streaming live.
Horror, horror, danger, danger.
Big Brother All-Stars, new season, Wednesday at 9/8 Central on CBS.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Glad you caught that text, David.
Owner of D.R. Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida.
Oh, yeah.
He's been repairing and replacing roofs for 27 years.
You got your sponsor ready for the start?
I do.
Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
We need a poll question.
CC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Looking for a frameless shower door? My Shower Door has just opened their 8th Florida showroom, and it's conveniently located in Cape Coral. With more than 75,000 frameless shower doors installed, no one has more experience and 5-star reviews than My Shower Door. We've been named #1 by readers of the News Press and Naples News for 17 consecutive years and have just been named as Lee County's Manufacturer of the Year. Want to see more? Go to myshowerdor.com.
Here we go. Now back to Miller and Moulton. No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
"26 minutes before the hour, Miller and Moulton on this Friday. It's not only the final day of the week, it's the final day of the month, and it's the final day for us for about a week and a half. We're going to take next week off. We'll be back on Monday the 10th. Miller and Moulton brought to you by Appliance Direct with 8 locations in Florida, none of them in Southwest Florida. Okay, scratches, dents, don't worry. We'll just bang them out. The largest Whirlpool retailer in the world.
From Cleveland!
Folks, it's Appliance Direct. We're from Cleveland, folks. Got to be an old school listener to remember that. That was Fusilia
before Fusilia. Do you see Dorsey did a whole story trying to figure out where Billy Fusillo is?
Yeah, nobody can find him. It's like, where's Matt Lauer? All right. I mean, I knew
I wouldn't want to be in the same sentence as Matt Lauer.
I understand. It's you can't use that. You can't tell a Cosby joke anymore. I know. But yeah, he hasn't been in a TV ad since October. So, everybody's wishing, hoping he's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But, hasn't even responded to Dorsey's texts. That's when you get concerned. So, Hoping everything is okay there. But yes, the starting five brought to you by Appliance Direct, okay, where our appliances come from Cleveland, folks. Time now for
the starting five. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton's starting five. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
I don't know if we're entertaining anybody with this or if this is just for ourselves.
And, David, it's the last show before vacation. I can say this with complete honesty. I don't care.
I know.
I don't care today. I'm having fun, and they've always said if we're having fun, the audience is having fun, David, and we're having fun.
That's what they say. This is going to put it to the test, though, right here. Okay, and if you can't tell, we're making a point that nothing on this show is sponsored.
That's not true. Kobe Cooling is a proud sponsor of the studio, even though we have two. 73 degrees in this studio, thanks to Kobe Cooling. And the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing Talk and Text Line. They are two terrific sponsors of the show, and we do not want to disparage the great work and that they do supporting us.
You didn't hear me right. I said segments. We have the text line sponsored. We have the studio sponsored. Okay. Segments on the show? Nah.
I apologize. David, get back to the Appliance Direct starting five.
They're from Cleveland, folks. NBA resumed last night, 20 weeks to the day that Rudy Gobert tested positive for the coronavirus. He started this whole damn mess. He hit 2 free throws in the waning seconds to give Utah 106-104 win over the New Orleans Pelicans. Zion played just 15 minutes, scored 13 points. They didn't play him down the stretch. He's too old. He's apparently can't handle it. LeBron had the game-winning putback in the final seconds. The Lakers edged the Clippers 103-101. Anthony Davis with 34 for the Lakers. Paul George with 30 for the Clippers. We will have NBA action beginning at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Your Orlando Magic. We say your because Jonathan Isaac is from Naples. Brandon Goodwin played at FGCU. He's with the Atlanta Hawks. They didn't make the NBA's resumption here. So the connection that we have is Jonathan Isaac from Naples. He's on the Orlando Magic. And the Magic are playing the Brooklyn Nets, a battle for the 7 seed. Our coverage begins at 2 o'clock this afternoon. SEC decided to release their schedule. They didn't put dates next to the games. But here's what they said. They said, we're pushing the conference play back a week. Instead of starting September 19th, we're going to start conference play on September 26th. We're going to play 10 conference games only. No non-conference games. ACC, remember the day before, it said, we'll do 10-1. So we can keep some of our non-conference rivalries. SEC president said, yeah, we're not interested in that. So no Florida State this year. That's what that means. Never mind LSU, Texas, and all the other games. They are not happening. It means Clemson and South Carolina will not play this year for the first time since 1908. As of now, it will end the second longest continuous rivalry in college football. They have played 111 consecutive years. The SEC has not released who the opponents are. They've just said they're going to go to 10 conference games. Now, the thought is people have been looking at the, quote, rotation. Who was due to be on Florida's schedule, say, next year? Who were going to be the SEC West teams that were going to be on their 2021 schedule? And apparently it was going to be Alabama, and then I believe Mississippi State were the next 2 teams that were up on the schedule. So there's a lot of thought that their current conference schedule will then be added on by the next 2 teams that were up on their rotation, and that they'll do that for everybody. If that's the case, Mark, think about who Florida will end up playing this year. They always play LSU. And, I'm sorry, I said Mississippi State. It's actually Texas A&M. The next 2 teams up on the rotation for the Gators are Bama and A&M. So besides playing Georgia and everybody else in the East.
Well, besides playing Georgia.
Yeah, well, but they
I'm
go to
kidding.
Knoxville, and
I
we
know,
think it
I'm-
might be salty. But yes,
I'm having
Georgia,
fun.
just top 10, top 12, top 15 teams in the country. This could be on their schedule. Georgia, LSU, Alabama, A&M. However, it also means, you know who's the next two up for Alabama? Well, that would mean Florida, and I think it's Vandy. Well, think about then, Mark, who Alabama would play this year. Besides Auburn, A&M, and LSU on their side, they always play Tennessee. And this year, they're playing Georgia. And if Florida gets added to their schedule, I mean, this will be the hardest schedule Alabama's played since Nick Saban's been there. There's no question about it.
He's trying. I heard he is trying to admit Georgia State into the conference so he can play Georgia State and keep that rivalry going and dump Georgia. I don't have a second source on that, but that's what I heard.
I believe there's been a special, meeting that's being held, and Nick's argument is since Hugh Freeze used to be at Ole Miss, that Liberty should be allowed into the SEC this year.
And in the West, and in the West,
conference game, right?
And in the West, by the way,
that should count as a conference game, right? Liberty to replace Florida, I believe, is what Nick is lobbying for. Major League Baseball, they decided to take our idea, starting tomorrow. And I don't know if any doubleheaders are scheduled today. I don't think there are. But beginning tomorrow, Major League Baseball is going to do the minor league rule of, hey, if we got to play two, let's play 2 7-inning games. Yeah, let's do it. Absolutely. That's enough. Yeah, I like it. So beginning tomorrow, August 1st, for the rest of this season, doubleheaders will be 7 innings.
Look, you have to give Major League Baseball, to me, I give them a lot of credit. They are doing as much as they can to change things on the fly. They jammed in that little series with Baltimore and New York. Baseball's working hard. You know what, David? They're in your corner working hard for you now.
Look at you.
They are. I give them credit for this little move.
I agree. I like it. It turns out 2 Phillies, no players, a coach and a staff member have tested positive for the coronavirus. Because of it, Major League Baseball has canceled all the Phillies games through the weekend as well. So the Marlins and Phillies are not playing until Monday. And everybody else is scurrying to try to at least get some of their games in. The Marlins have had 2 more players test positive. The count now is up to 19. 19 Marlins, 17 players and 2 coaches. 19 Marlins have tested positive for the coronavirus. They're still in Philadelphia under quarantine and right now not scheduled to play until Monday. The Rays lost their second straight in Atlanta. Friend of the show, Mark Melanson, with the save in a 2-1 Atlanta win. Yankees beat the Orioles 8-6. You know why? The Yankees always beat the Orioles. I think it's their 19th straight win against Baltimore. Judge with a 2-run homer in the 9th to win it. Cleveland shut out Minnesota 2-0. Fortunately, Mark, the Royals cooled off the hot Tigers for your over-under purposes.
Thank goodness, man. The Tigers were trying to rally in the 9th. I'm watching it. My wife goes, "What were you cheering about?" I go, "The Tigers lost." She went, "What?" I'm like, "Hey, I bet against them. I don't know what to tell you."
Yeah, hey, come on.
Which did lead to the second question. You bet against them. What do you mean? I said, well, I've got about, I think, between $250 and $300 in futures bets. What are futures bets? I'm not going to bother you with all that.
Honey,
when we're done, we'll let you know how we did.
Yeah, we've got a long ride to North Carolina. I'll explain it to you somewhere between Melbourne and Savannah. How about that? The Nats 6-4 over the Blue Jays. Red Sox 4-2 over the Mets. Dodgers doubled up Arizona 6-3. Padres in 10 beat the Giants 12-7. And Seattle, the Mariners, got a win over the Angels 8-5. 2 things to note there. Mike Trout is on the paternity list. He and his wife expecting their first child. And Daniel Vogelbach, the pride of Bishop Verot, who's gotten off to a slow start, 1 for 3 with a walk last night for Seattle. Brooks Koepka with an 8-under 62 is a 1-shot lead in the first round of the FedEx St. Jude Classic. Ricky Fowler is a shot back. And anybody catch this little Tampa Bay Bucks news yesterday? Fowler's 2 back?
6 under.
My bad. Thought he was 1 back. So Koepka at 8 under 62. LaShawn McCoy, shady, the 32-year-old running back.
Chasing himself a ring, and where did he come?
Well, he got himself a ring with the Chiefs last year, although he was inactive for the championship game in the Super Bowl. But he latched on with the Chiefs last year, got himself a ring, had a couple of fumbles mid-season last year, and fell out of the rotation because of it. So he only carried the ball 100 times last year, caught 28 passes, scored 5 touchdowns total. But LaShawn McCoy, with, I believe, Mark, one of the Tampa Bay players on the COVID list is the rookie running back from Vandy, Vaughn. He's on the COVID list. And so for insurance, the Bucs reached out to Shady McCoy here. And just another weapon for Brady. TB12, that's all. Some veterans hanging on and doing so in Tampa. I mean, Mark, when you're at the end of your run, where do you go?
Come to Florida.
Right.
All roads lead to retiring in Florida, David, or Arizona. You know, Kurt Warner went Arizona. Tom Brady went Florida. Take your pick.
Yeah, there you go. And that, Mark, at 14 minutes before the hour is...
The starting 5. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton starting 5. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
And the starting 5 brought to you by Appliance Direct with 8 locations in Florida, none of them in the 239, although they used to be here. Appliance Direct. Doesn't matter. Scratch them, dent them. We'll sell them to you. They work just fine. Appliance Direct, where we get our appliances from Cleveland, folks. Anybody enjoying this? I know on the text line and the Twitch.tv line that they like the Peels reference. We're getting a bunch of the old. Trust me, ladies and gentlemen, we've discussed this. We know the out of business beers here. You will hear them between now and the good, the bad, and the ugly. Don't you worry. Don't you worry.
We will give you the results from our 2-day poll question and put one up that'll last for at least the weekend. When we come back. Miller and Moulton. Thanks for listening. Fox Sports Radio, where we stream at millerandmoulton.com, and you are looking live on twitch.tv.
It's from Cleveland, folks.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
When we start talking about testing with the NFL and college football, the suggested minimum time away from the sport for players or coaches, staff, etc., who are exposed to someone who is tested positive for the virus in college football is 14 days. In the NFL, that time could be as little as 2 days.
Dan Patrick. The Dan Patrick Show. Weekdays at 9 a.m. on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
It's Fred Kobe with your Kobe Cool and Tip of the Day. My dad taught me many things growing up, like don't cry over spilt milk, don't talk to strangers, and never make appointments with AC companies who telemarket you on the phone. They're bait-and-switch companies offering cheap services to get to your wallet. If you're telemarketed at your house, hang up. You can't perform a real service for $15 or whatever the fake offer is. Use companies that employ NATE-certified mechanics and steer clear of any company with the words home services in the name. They're simply a salesman after a big commission. When you think of air conditioning companies, we hope you think of Kobe Cooling. No nonsense and no pressure. We're the company your
I
neighbors
think the
use.
ACC did what they did because the word was out that the SEC was just going to go to 10 conference games, and that it was a last-ditch effort by the ACC, I think, to get the SEC to change their mind and add the non-conference.
At the end of the day, it's what we talked about. Too many teams don't have a non-conference game they care about. When Alabama lost USC, I know they tried to scratch in BYU, but I think at the end of the day, what the Big Ten said was right. We can control the testing and how the protocols within our conference. Once we get outside of it, with no commissioner in football, David, there's no set rules.
Mark, I'd like to agree with you and think that they care that much about testing and all that. I just think they didn't want to play an extra game. That's all. They just wanted it to be 10. 10 was the number. They didn't want it to be 11. I don't know why they're starting later, though.
That doesn't make any sense to me either. I want to get this started as quickly as possible because if I have a Marlins situation, I need 3 weeks to try to make a game up, right?
Sankey was asked why, And remember, he's getting his marching orders from the SEC presidents on this one. And the presidents, apparently, according to Sankey, the thought is that when students in late August come back to campus, there's going to be a spike in the coronavirus on campus. And this gives them a little bit of time to kind of get their campus situated. Because most kids come back by mid-August.
Right. We need a poll question.
Whatever.
These are stressful times.
Whatever.
The constant bombardment of bad news and trying to keep you and your family safe all the time. It's Frank.
Does it need to be college football centric today?
Your mood is so critical, and nothing's more important to a guy.
What game are you most bummed out that we're losing? Alabama, USC. Florida. I think Florida State would win going away down here.
Many are grumpy when they start, and most can't believe how much their mood improves once they get treated. And everything improves once your mood improves. Feel the difference C4MH.com can make in your life.
I want to ask something about Notre Dame in a conference.
I lost 20 pounds because now I have the energy to work out from home, and that'll put you in a good mood too.
What was your favorite defunct sponsor that we had in our show today?
Wow, that'd be just
tremendous.
And
just throw it up at 8:30.
It'd be tremendous. We got to go local/regional though.
Well, I mean, I've got mine.
Good, because I've got national. Right.
Yeah, I've got three, but we're not doing John. Did we ever ask John for?
He's available if we want him at 8:30, but he said I gotta know because I'll have to get to a quiet part of the house.
Oh, is he at home all day today?
Yeah. I think no. He goes into the studio, but I think at that time of the day he'll still be home. I didn't know if we needed him. I figured since we have a guest at 8, we'd want to wrap everything up between ourselves and the second
look
segment.
at just for who the sponsor was. It's really the only.
Right, that's true.
You're live.
As we rapidly approach 7 minutes before 7 o'clock. Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? We're Miller and Moulton. This is Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com and broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. If you're an Amazon Prime customer, you've got a Twitch channel. It comes with it. Make the Miller and Moulton channel your channel of choice. Sign up for our channel. We would appreciate it, and you can interact with us during the commercial breaks.
Couple of things here, David. First off, I'll get to our poll question in a second, but this all started, our poll question results, that is about having something named after you.
Right.
And I went to one of the places on the list last night for dinner and noticed that Ford's, they have it up on the wall, their Burger Hall of Fame of who the burgers were named after. Because I even think, our favorite car guy, and I say that with my tongue firmly planted in my cheek, that he had a burger named after him, and they fired him a couple 3 years ago. And, the golfer.
No, I know who you're
okay, I didn't know. He's a golfer. That's the easiest way for, well, that's you.
Right, he was on my account.
Right.
So that's why I like
my wife loves him for the 67 calls within 30 minutes while we were at Lamaze class. That was my favorite. But so I was at Ford's last night, and they've kind of changed their menu where they have the Hall of Fame on the wall, but it's no longer part of the menu.
Oh.
Because I think they're trying to franchise that and get that out, and it wouldn't really make a whole hell of a lot of sense to have all these local names on there.
Sure.
So, but it was the ice cream flavor at Royal Scoop, the sandwich at Wally's, which Dave Deros recommended the Cuban. Might be getting that for lunch today.
Well, I mean, come on. Of course he represented the Cuban. I mean,
that was his recommendation. I go with the Philly steak.
He's Cuban.
Yeah, but when a Cuban guy recommends a Cuban sandwich at a place, that's a very good recommendation.
That is. By the way, the Cuban sandwiches at Marlins Park are excellent.
They should be.
I know.
The stadium's in Little Havana.
I know.
They can get the ingredients and have someone cook it.
Well, they do a really good
I love a good Cuban.
Yeah.
And then the Norman Love chocolate and the burger at Ford's. Ford's ended up winning 39% of the vote. The sandwich came in second, ice cream third, and the chocolate last. But I do like the fact that most of these places either got a retweet or were involved, and we're happy that we were nice to some of the local places.
Right. I mean, none of you spend any money with us or the show, but we threw.
Nobody does.
No.
I don't know. Hey, Norman Love.
Right.
Wally's, Ford's.
Right.
Royal Scoop. Listen to the show today. We're going to give you plenty. In fact, time now for our Captain's Cabin poll question of the day. The Captain's Cabin, located in Naples, your best chance to get stabbed while you buy your 8-ball. The Captain's Cabin, a tradition in Naples since 1973.
I missed that place. I went there a couple times. Ceilings were low. That I remember.
Really low.
The smoke just seemed to hover.
The red shag carpeting walls.
I mean, when I first walked in there, I thought I was in Los Angeles. All right. That's how low. But then as the night goes on and you've had a few, I started going, what are we, the Bears and the Eagles? Are we playing in the fog game? What the hell? All right. There's music, but I can't see where it's coming from. Right. I miss that place. Anyway. I just miss
But the Captain's Cabin, proud sponsor of Miller and Moulton's poll question.
Right. If you want to put your name on the poll question, be my guest. And we'll speak just as highly of your place.
21 to get in, 16 if we're feeling good today.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Yeah, they took it as a suggestion. Okay. They didn't take it as a law. Okay. How old do you have to be to get in here? Well, they say 21.
All right. We just hit a soft spot with Giro because he did just text us and said he DJ'd there in the early 90s. One, I had no idea you were that old, Giro. And two, you know exactly what we're talking about. Miller and Moulton, the poll question, brought to you by the Captain's Cabin in Naples. Stop by for lingerie night on Thursday.
Want to talk about stadium dry cleaners, my good friends.
That's funny.
Stadium dry cleaners.
Anything we said there incorrect, Giro?
You are correct.
SEC and NFL referee. Well, I know Larry has a fantastic dry cleaner and a great businessman.
We should just make up a dry cleaner here.
Dry cleaners
I can't because I don't want to do it because, you know, the only problem is if Moody catches, you know, and I'm not that they're going to, I don't want any sponsor that's on getting mad while we're doing this for a day.
Well, maybe we could find out what the sponsor was on that Saturday Night Live skit the Stern bit. Okay, just name that sponsor. I'll tell you, been going there for years. By the way, their grand opening is Saturday.
Trust my family's dry cleaning to Larry and the team at Stadium Dry Cleaners. So will you visit them? Visit stadiumdrycleaners.com and look for their monthly specials for great savings.
You can't watch baseball while driving. Mowing, running, walking, fishing, golfing, or while doing anything else you like to do while on the go. And this year, you can't even watch baseball at a ballpark, but you can see the game on the radio.
Where stance so still at the plate
when the Marlins play.
Now the pitch.
Get the play-by-play.
How what a play!
On Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, home for Miami Marlins baseball.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor, the Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Is your pool a pain to operate? Automation is the answer. Use your phone to turn on your spa, and it'll be warm when you get home. Free on-site evaluations. We're a family company, and for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133. State certified CPC 057088.
WFSX AM from Naples to Cape Coral and all of Southwest Florida.
Stanley Sports. When I was a child, we used to go to Stanley Sport all the time. I love Stanley Sports.
Brought to you by the Center for Men's Health, C4MH.com.
And the grand opening is this weekend.
Man, I just love going there.
My dad used to take me there when I was a kid.
We bought all our sporting goods from Stanley Sports. Their grand opening's tomorrow.
Guy says, so are you using the non-sponsor sponsors? Could you guys be the lead broadcasters for a non-existent sports conference as football? You could be the lead broadcast team for the Freedom Football Conference.
Yeah, Big East football. Miller and Moulton, proud sponsors of Big East football and the XFL. Yep. Miller and Moulton brought to you by the AAF. Some of us are still owed money by the AAF.
I once worked in the IH. In fact, I have right here is a Turner Cup ring. My championship ring. Does this thing even fit anymore? There it is. There's your Turner Cup ring from the International Hockey League.
Did you see the AHL announcement yesterday? They're not starting their season until December.
Okay, well, then that means the ECHL is not starting until December.
I was going to say.
How do they?
You throw one on the counter, you throw the other in the freezer. There you go. For a week, then you take it out. When you've got BOGO, it's like, hey, knock yourself out.
Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
It's up to you now. It's up to you. I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Hour number 2 of Miller and Moulton on this final day in July. And our final day for a little while. We're taking next week off. We'll be back on Monday, August 10th. Monday, August 10th. Phil Steele will join the show for a half an hour as we'll talk plenty of college football a week from Monday on the 10th. 479-5551 to say you can chime in on this Friday morning via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line 479-5551. Miller and Moulton, the proud announcement. We're the proud sponsor of Big East football in 2020. Miller and Moulton, proud sponsors of Big East football. And Miller and Moulton brought to you by the AAF. Some of us are still owed money from the AAF.
Williamson Brothers Marine talk and text line. Williamson Brothers Roofing and Marine, the only real sponsor other than Kobe Cooling that we will say during the entire show today because it's the only two we have.
Right.
Someone texted, no joke, someone told me they were going to stab me at the captain's cabin one time. And no kidding, it's known as the stabbing cabin. Yes, we know.
We know
I've
that.
lived here for 20-some-odd years. I'm well aware.
You lived within 10 minutes, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
When you first
When I was
got
in
here?
Naples, I could.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Now, I was a much bigger fan of the Swamp Buggy Lounge than the captain's cabin. Swamp Buggy Lounge was on like maybe 2nd or 3rd Street, so it was just off of 5th. So if you did 5th in Naples, and Patty Murphy's was a pretty popular place back in the day when I was running around more. And you'd go to Patty Murphy's, they'd call last call 1:30, a little earlier than normal. You'd make your way to the Buggy for one more because the Buggy's last call was 2. It was a real proper last call, and it was a package store. So not only could you order last call, you could get yourself a bottle to go.
There you go.
Because what you need at 1:58 a.m. is another 5th of booze.
Yes.
But it was a huge place for the service industry because they'd go wait tables and they'd all empty into the Buggy. But the best part about the Buggy is the bar was sunken. So you sat in actual chairs like you and I are sitting at, and you're eyeball to eyeball with the bartender. It was a horseshoe bar, and it was dug out a couple of feet. It was a great, great bar. I miss the Swamp Buggy. My favorite bar in Naples.
Proud sponsors of Miller and Moulton. 479-5551, 479-5551, the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. We did mention something during that commercial break that just throwing out there. This is an English muffin. This is a nook and cranny. And I'm guessing 99% of you missed it yesterday. But we got a few Everblades fans in Southwest Florida. And I think if you're a season ticket holder or you're a fan, you're kind of wondering, I wonder when, when will the Blades play again? Well, the AHL, which is the highest level of minor league hockey, got the NHL, the AHL, the ECHL. Blades are at the ECHL level. The AHL announced they're not going to start till December. And we think the NHL might not play much before then either, right? I mean, think they are going to try. What, are they going to go straight from the end of this season
No
to
way.
the beginning of that one?
No
I think
way.
They got to get a little time off. They got to do free agency and a draft and all that. So, I mean, so you would think that that's a likely starting point for the Blades. That a lot of times in hockey, it trickles down.
Well, certainly to me, the the NHL, while you do have players on contracts with NHL teams in the ECHL, I don't think they're as dependent on the NHL start date. But the fact of the matter is that these ECHL teams work very closely with their American League affiliates.
Yeah.
It's a way to skirt salary cap. You're trying to get some better players. There's a lot of intricacies to that, but you're back and forth with your A team a lot. So right. I don't see how the E would be able to start much before when the AHL does. Like, I can't see a normal October start time if they're starting in December.
And remember, all those leagues shut down in mid-March. So they didn't have playoffs last year. They didn't have a championship. And now, as one would expect, I mean, listen, when the NBA Players Association earlier this week said, hey, I think we're going to start next year in a bubble. And boy, if you're Adam Silver, you got to be happy about that, right? I mean, this bubble, they now say, is up to about $180 million in cost.
David?
And this is just to play 8 regular season games and the playoffs.
And David, it is going to be, look, I know he doesn't want that said. There's no doubt. You don't want it already out there that part of next year could be fanless. But based on what the baseball numbers, TV numbers were opening weekend, they did numbers. It's the highest viewed regular season ESPN game ever, I believe.
Yeah, the Thursday night openers did really well on ESPN, and the regional ratings are doing really well. Fox's ratings were okay. As we've talked about, baseball's a regional sport.
Basketball's not.
Correct.
I will be shocked if the TV numbers for the NBA for these first 10 days aren't gargantuan compared to what their normal regular season numbers are. I do think, look, they're never going to be able to make up all the money that they're losing from in stadium games. I get it. I do think that the TV numbers are going to be terrific for the NBA.
Agreed. And I think you and I are both curious. Beginning tomorrow, the NHL resumes. And are they going to be able to get some TV traction that they don't normally get? Summer hockey. There's a few things that have happened recently which sum up 2020. Notre Dame's in a college football conference. Clemson and South Carolina are not going to play for the first time since 1908. And summer hockey. Hello. Boy,
So
what a week it's been.
So the Bucks, little football news for you to let you know what's going on, because as many of you know, I am now a Tampa Bay Buccaneers season ticket holder.
Right. You're a baseball fan again, and you're all over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers bandwagon.
Got an email from the Bucks yesterday.
Okay.
This is what their ticket plans are.
All right.
Your entire 2020 season ticket payment will be automatically credited for the 2021 season with no action needed on your part. Keeping your payment as a credit towards 2021 will include the following benefits. You can keep your seat locations and receive all the exclusive member benefits that are associated with your tickets. You will have priority access to 2020 single game tickets as part of the priority sale. This will be only open to season ticket members. That's really the only thing you get.
Okay.
They said you can use your credit to purchase 2020 single game tickets. If we're able to increase stadium capacity, including playoffs, you will be giving priority access to purchase tickets for those games.
Look at how optimistic they are.
And most importantly, David, here it is. You will
on.
receive your gift for being a season ticket holder.
Wait, what? A gift?
Oh, you will receive your 2020 season pass member gift in the mail later this summer.
What is it?
I think it depends on whether or not you want a refund or not.
A koozie? A T-shirt? What do you think you're getting? I mean,
Maybe a coffee Yeti?
Yeah.
I mean, I did get club seats. It was over $2,000.
Well, yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe we're getting a koozie and a T-shirt. Maybe. My goodness. But boy, how optimistic are they, Mark? When's the last time you think they included in one of those emails? All right, something about playoffs, comma. Huh. Playoff tickets. Right. Okay. Getting a little ahead of ourselves, aren't we? But they're feeling good about themselves. Let's hope we have a season. Did you see in Buffalo they sent the rookies home?
Yes, 5 positive COVID tests.
Right. Which I have to admit, there's a part of me that I don't get this. Isn't the whole object if somebody tests positive, you quarantine them? You keep them where they are.
We keep moving the goalposts on this, David.
Well, no, help me out here. We've all been paying attention since about mid-March. Help me out. You test positive, what do? They lock you in a room, don't they? The nearest room. They don't transport you somewhere else. Isn't this how we got in the problem with the nursing homes? I mean, don't we? I mean, Peter Bush is still in the same room in his house. All right? I mean, that's what you do. We quarantine you. 5 guys test positive on the Bills. Hey, tell you what, leave town.
Go home.
Stay well.
No, just go home. Go infect whoever you can before you come back.
What? Yeah, go to a rave, for goodness sakes. Have a party. Really, knock yourself out. Be around as many young people without masks as you can. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. What? I read that. I went, that doesn't make any sense.
No, and it makes even less sense. And I get that football and baseball are different than what hockey and basketball are doing. But it's working in hockey and basketball. It's working really well. Listen to Reggie Miller on Dan Patrick's show. And he's like, who you been hanging out with? And Reggie's like, me, myself, and I. He goes, I go for a run in the morning. I come back to my room and I order room service. He goes, I don't see anybody. He goes, Mark Jackson's one of my good friends, one of my best friends. I don't see him. Even though we're all negative. We don't know who's coming in the hotel. And I mean, right. You listen to all of these coaches, whether it was Tomlin, whether it was Flores. I mean, they are talking to their football players like a kindergarten teacher talks to their kids. They're being that matter of fact about not being stupid. And yet Buffalo, the organization, sorry, David, but yet Buffalo, the organization, does the opposite basically of what their coaches are telling players.
I don't get it at all. Don't get it at all. I would not, as far as I'm concerned, I don't want you to go home, period, ever again, until we get a vaccine, I swear. No, stay here.
But Hecko, you make Hecko Hyde in our Twitch chat room says football's all about making money and not spending it on the players. The NFL doesn't care. Now, maybe with the rookies, you're right, because of these 5 rookies, there's a good chance that one of them makes the team and the other 4 don't. But they're about making money. Well, sending players home to infect more people is not a money-making move. It's the opposite of that. They're going to have to spend money to protect their product. And they lose money if they don't have games. And the most important thing is having the games. And how do you have games? You keep the players safe. This is not that hard.
I mean, remember, NFL players have been showing up having tested positive. All right? The sports teams feel that the players are safer with them. We can control their environment better. We can keep them away from others. And we've got testing and healthcare right here. We can take care of you. You're better off here. It's what I argue about college athletics. It's a bad look if any of these major universities are playing sports without students on campus. It's not a good look. It's actually as safe a situation as you could create, though. It's creating a bubble for the athletes. Unintended, but that's what would happen. So football's got time, obviously, no preseason. And listen, they're working out now. They're running. They're not hitting each other. They're not running plays. Honestly, they're not doing anything right now. This week was all about get them in there and test them. For 2 weeks, they're going to test the heck out of everybody every day.
One gentleman just simply says, was this Buffalo's move the first unofficial first round of cuts?
Well, it might be. I mean, it is the one thing, and you said these are rookies and they may not make the team, but remember, only 80 guys in camp. You got a 53-man roster and a 16-member practice squad. 69 of the 80 are making it. Now, obviously, you can pick guys off of other rosters, but think about it. I mean, 7 out of 8 guys who are there are going to make, in theory, are going to make somebody's roster. If you're in an NFL training camp in August, there will be some people, there are free agents that have not been signed. So maybe there's 24 guys who are sitting home in their living rooms who are going to end up on rosters by opening day. But for the most part, 85% of the league's players are in training camp.
It might even be higher, David.
69 out of 80. I mean, if every team's got 80, you got 53-man roster, 16-man practice squad, that's 69. In theory, 69 of your 80 are going to be around the organization this year. I mean, that's almost 7 out of 8. That's 87.5%. So 85% of the players, if you're lucky enough to have been invited. So of those 5 rookies, Mark, the odds are actually 4 of them would be around the team in some way, shape, or form. In theory.
In theory. And we all know there'll be guys cut from other teams picked up by teams because they think they can do a little better in this, that, and the other. But yeah, if you're not in camp, other than Clowney and a couple of guys, if you're not in a camp, you're not making a team. We can sit there and write down who the guys are that are not signed, not in a camp, that'll end up being on a roster. But it's not a rookie that's not in camp right now. It's not an undrafted guy.
Miller and Moulton. Brought to you in part by Schaefer. Schaefer beer. Schaefer, the one beer to have when you're having more than one. Proud sponsor of New York Mets baseball. Kiner's Corner coming up after the 4-2 loss to the Red Sox right after this.
Speaking of your Mets, David, I've told you we've got I call them the OG walkers in our neighborhood because they were walking before it was popular. Before the coronavirus forced everyone out of their house.
There you go.
Husband and wife, and there's usually one other guy or one other woman with them. And I know his name, and I don't know hers, and I feel terrible because they introduce themselves quickly, but everybody knows Vinny. Vinny's the mayor around here. And his wife, like you, is a gigantic Mets fan. And yesterday I caught him, and they were commenting on how nice the trees looked in my yard. Obviously, they were not trimmed by me. And we were chatting. I says, man, I was so bummed out. I thought you were Mets. She says, don't even get me started. Couldn't even get it out of my mouth. She says, don't even get me started. I said, man, I thought that comeback was going to happen. I said, that's twofold for me. I said, my co-host is a big Mets fan, and they'd have beaten the Red Sox, so that would have been double the fun. She just shook her head and walked away. I love angst out of a fan. And I wasn't doing it. I was not even poking the bear. I was like, man, you're down 6-2. You came by. It was a fun little, anytime a team does it, it's fun to watch. She didn't take it that way.
No, Mark, certain fan bases just have a little bit of angst when they wake up in the morning. All right? That's one of those teams' fan bases that just wakes up with a little angst. All right? A lot of good things have to happen in a row for that angst to dull a little bit. It's going to be kind of like a South Carolina football fan all year. Think they're going to be ornery? They're not playing Clemson this year.
111 years, David? Is that what you said?
1909 through 2019, 111 consecutive times Clemson and South Carolina have played football. Only Wisconsin and Minnesota. Only for Paul Bunyan's axe, Mark. That is the oldest continuous rivalry in college football. Minnesota and Wisconsin have played 113 consecutive times. Clemson, South Carolina, 111. Apparently, they're not going to play this year. I'll tell you what, because Will would do it. All right, Will would. South Carolina would do it. Dabo's got enough sway. Dabo could do whatever he wants.
Anything he wanted.
The question,
the only thing that would get Dabo in trouble is if Lawrence got hurt in the game.
True, but Lawrence would want to play. And here's the problem. Clemson is likely going to be, we think Clemson's going to be in the playoff. Because I have wondered, I don't think there's going to be many bowl games this year, but I have wondered if they could, out of 40 bowl games, play, 15 to 20 of them, in which they will strategically be games in which games that were supposed to take place during the regular season could now take place in the bowls.
Alabama doesn't make the playoff. You could reschedule them against USC.
Right. I mean, the Sun Bowl, which obviously I know a little bit about working it, it's a Pac-12 ACC game. Well, Notre Dame was supposed to play both Stanford and USC. If Notre Dame's not a part of the playoff and USC and or Stanford's not a part of the playoff, do you think Notre Dame USC is kind of a big deal to Notre Dame and USC. I mean, what do you say? We do it in El Paso. I think both teams for that game, I think both teams would be all in. Anybody else in a bowl game, I don't think they'd, care. I'd be like, no, we're good. No, we had a season. There's no need to risk it, this, that, and the other thing. But to play that game, guys go to those schools to play that other team. This is a way, if Clemson by chance is not in the playoff, could Clemson just call up South Carolina and say, hey, let's pick the bowl game? What do you say? We'll work it out.
Right. You could do it in Charlotte, for that matter. Somehow they're not in it. Florida State in the Gator Bowl?
Right.
I don't think Florida's going to the playoffs, and Florida State's biggest problem is going to be trying to be bowl eligible. But if they are, stick that game in Jacksonville, call it a day.
Now, speaking of Jacksonville, something interesting was brought up that for whatever reason, because of the coronavirus, that maybe Florida-Georgia is not a neutral site game this year, which technically it's a Georgia home game this year. Georgia's the home team in the game. The Georgia AD's like, yeah, we're not interested in hosting Florida because in theory, then they'd have to return the favor.
When there would be full crowds.
Exactly. And the Georgia AD's like, yeah, we're not really interested in hosting Florida with 20,000 fans, and we'd have to go to them in front of 91. Oh, we're good.
And think of the years. Well, there's more to it than that, too, because this year we all know the Gators are going to be salty.
Yeah.
But by next year, they could be really salty. And now we've got to go there?
So that's also something, how many of these games take place? Florida, Georgia is a neutral site game. Will it remain a neutral site game? I'm also curious about how many of these games, Mark, what we talked about with baseball. I really think they should get rid of the clubhouses in baseball. I think guys should show up dressed. I really do. I'm sorry. It's a Little League Babe Ruth year. Everybody gets out of their car, they dressed, go straight to the field.
What do you do with the visiting team? How many buses you taking? I'm not trying to be smart, David.
Well, but they take buses anyway. You just get on the bus dressed. Okay, and you just show up. I'm not talking baseball. In football, in theory, you could do the same thing, just not have shoulder pads on. You could get dressed at the hotel and get on the bus, and everybody walks in with their shoulder pads and helmet. You could walk straight to the field or straight to the parking lot. They could have an area of the parking lot where they, get dressed and they, what have you. I don't know if the locker rooms. I'm a little leery of this whole locker room.
I got you. Then you're going to have to use basketball courts because, David, I got where you're at, but the parking lot doesn't work either because some of these places it's going to be 95 degrees, and in others by the end of the year it's going to be 12 degrees. So that just theoretically, most of these schools, we can do this without maybe not the normal locker room. There are usually enough buildings in and around a college football stadium that, most of them, the basketball stadium pretty close by. They could have the whole entire basketball floor if they wanted spaced out.
That's true. The O-Dome.
Where you eat.
CBS uses it for their pregame meal.
Sorry, you're out because that's the visiting locker room.
Yeah, okay.
So you're on to something. It just doesn't need to, you started the thought. I think I helped you get to a better spot.
Yeah.
I took it inside.
I do think that people are going to have to talk about this stuff, and because of the Marlins situation. I really believe in a strange, convoluted way that the Marlins screw up is going to help the rest of the sports world. I actually think it's really going to help football.
I agree with you 100%. It gave every coach a talking point for his team to smarten up, and it allows teams and organizations to make contingency plans based on what happened with the Marlins.
And quickly, Mark, if next week baseball resumes for the Marlins and Phillies, I mean, think about it. An outbreak. I consider 17, 18 people.
Yes.
That's fair enough to call an outbreak. Well, the NFL's worried about what if we have an outbreak? Well, if baseball was able to get their act together in a week and then play, well, hey, if you're in the NFL, okay, we have to take a week off and get our act together. They miss a game. Maybe we'll make it up. Maybe we won't. We'll move forward. I really think the Marlins will show what went wrong and we need to prevent it, but also, hey, we can do this.
Colby Cohen covers the NHL, won a cup with the Bruins, works with Westwood One. We're your home of Westwood One NHL broadcast, and we'll talk with Colby about the Stanley Cup playoffs. We're back to talking sports, and damn it, it feels good. Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, and you are looking live on twitch.tv.
This is The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
This is on Dak Prescott. He tried to get everything.
Summer hockey, baby. Summer hockey.
Russell Wilson gets an outdated offense.
Did you see Emmerich's setup?
No.
His house?
He's calling games from home?
Yeah. He doesn't even know if he's going to do the finals in Edmonton. Apparently, he's staying home till the Stanley Cup finals, and then that's to be determined.
Okay.
But yeah, he's calling games from his home in Detroit, or near Detroit. And yeah, they added lighting. Some guy drove 600 miles to improve the lighting. They got him they added a monitor, a big monitor too. It reminded me of when Danielson took his credit card out, and we literally went to Best Buy and bought Vern a television because the monitor wasn't big enough for Vern, and they said that we couldn't get one. And Gary looked at me, and I looked at him, and Gary literally took his credit card out and handed it to the stage manager and said, go get a monitor. We went to Best Buy, and we handed the executive producer the receipt and said, here you go, submit it. And Vern had a big old TV. He was so happy. Where'd you get this? Best Buy.
Well, I laughed when I was doing these shows, these different, trade shows for Tricon.
Right.
And some of these guys went, shit, I don't ship a TV. I go to Best Buy, buy a monitor, and then I just keep the box really nice. 4 days later, I go take it back. Just like that's so funny.
God, they sound like a woman with a dress. Just.
And the other smart ones, and one we thought about doing was basically buying the TV, having a drawing at the end of it, and just give it away. Buy one of those things for $200-300, write it off. It costs more to ship the thing there. I don't know if Doc still lives in Michigan. Spitz, I mean, I know he's in Michigan. He does?
I thought the story said that he's at his home in Michigan.
He was his first gig was the voice of the Port Huron Flags. Would love to get Doc on the show one day. And I'd actually like to tape it because it could go an hour. Because when you get Mike Emmerich telling stories, I told it on the air before. He came to one of our league meetings, and he spoke to the broadcasters and the ECHL and the PR people. And he literally said, I think the meeting was the last one of the day. It was like 4 to 4:50 or something like that. And he said, guys, my flight's at 7:30. The airport's pretty close. I need to be there way pre 9/11. He says, I need to be there by, a half hour before, as long as I'm there. He goes, so I need to leave here at whatever. As long as you guys want to stay, we'll stay. He sat and talked to us for 2.5 hours, gave everybody in the room basically his cheat sheet. I wish I still had it, of what he used for the games. Couldn't have been a nicer guy. Told one of the best stories and complimented my buddy Darren Abbott because he said he had flown to Charleston and listened to the game. And he goes, you're pretty good, young man. I don't have a phone number for this Colby Cohen.
I'm a busy person. Oh, really?
Shit.
MillerandMoulton.com and subscribe to the daily
wow.
podcast.
Yeah, you're
No
right.
matter
Damn.
where you're boating, with Towboat US, you're covered by the world's largest towing fleet with over 300 ports nationwide.
Come on, John.
Towboat US companies in Charlotte,
It's all ball bearings these days.
24/7, 365 days a year. Inland, the river to Lake O, and out 75 nautical miles. And new membership pricing starts as low as $99. Call 239-945-1664 for more information, or visit towboatuscapecoral.com. With Towboat US, you're never stuck on the water.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau here, owner of D.R. Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. I've been repairing and replacing roofs for 27 years. We operate with integrity, knowledge, and service. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-4441.
License number CCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Colby. Good morning. Thanks for the time. This is Mark Miller from Miller.
This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
We are halfway home on this final day of July, our final show for a little while. We're taking next week off. We'll be back on Monday the 10th. Phil Steele will join us for a half an hour on August 10th to talk plenty of college football. The NHL season will have resumed, and the playoffs, they'll be underway. Colby Cohen will be broadcasting the playoffs for Westwood One. He won a national championship with the BU Terriers and a Stanley Cup with the Boston Bruins. You can follow Colby on Twitter at Colby Cohen 36. Colby, David, and Mark, thanks for your time. How you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. I got the NHL Network on in the background, and they're talking about games that happened yesterday, so things can't be too bad right now.
Boy, it feels really good to hear that and to be able to actually talk sports. One of the things when we've talked to a few people about this, Colby, this is going to sound like a practice. And for a hockey player, how difficult is it, do you think, to have energy, to have jump with no fans when yet there's so much consequence on the line?
Well, the thing that I think, you guys are right. I do think that it's a weird thing. And I've actually been talking to the players throughout the exhibition round from some of the different teams because, I felt like the network has done a pretty good job of adding some ambient noise to the broadcasts. And, I don't think that they were overdoing it, but I just think they were giving it a little bit of atmosphere. And so, I texted with a couple of the players and said, what do you guys think of it? And they actually cannot hear any of that. So that stuff is really for the broadcast only. I thought that they were actually pumping that stuff into the arena. But, at the end of the day, guys are playing for jobs. Guys are playing for contracts. There's a lot of guys who are impending, unrestricted free agents who need to continue to play hockey to continue to support their families. I mean, the competitive nature of this thing is going to get quick and it's going to ramp up very quickly. I mean, Ryan Reeves had a big hit last night in the Vegas game against Nick Schmaltz from Arizona. And I mean, it looked anything but like an exhibition game. It looked like a playoff game. So I think that the competitive spirit will win out here. I also think that the players are smart and they know that, look, there is a TV deal coming up for hockey. This is a chance to get major exposure, and the playoffs already get a lot of exposure. So, I think that you'll see by the time that first round starts, guys are playing to win these hockey games. And, ultimately it is great when you have the fans to help swing momentum in a playoff series, especially. But I think that the guys will be okay, and I anticipate to see a very high level and competitive bunch of hockey games here.
He's Colby Cohen, and he'll be helping Westwood One call the NHL playoffs, and we will begin our Stanley Cup playoff coverage tomorrow afternoon with Chicago and Edmonton, courtesy of Westwood One at 2 o'clock tomorrow here on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Colby won a national championship with BU and a Stanley Cup ring with the Bruins back in 2011. You said you've been talking to the guys. How close to 100% do they feel they are ready? In a way, they'll feel good. Normally, you enter the playoffs, it's the end of a long regular season, etc. So, in theory, they'll have jump. But in terms of being ready, this 4-month layoff here, how rusty do they feel?
Well, I think you nailed that on the head. I think that when does a team ever actually feel healthy and energized going into playoffs? I mean, usually you're at the end of that 82 season game grind and nothing feels good to start a 2.5 month journey of playoffs. So I think that you're going to see early on, you're going to see two different things. I think you're going to see teams that are more skilled could potentially really be in the driver's seat, because I think that, teams are still looking to nail down their structure and, work on their systems. I mean, I think about the Toronto-Columbus series is one that kind of jumps to mind in thinking like you've got one team that's full of all these skilled players, and then you've got another team that plays a really, really tight system. And I think early on, that skill and that individual skill from some of these young players like Marner, like Matthews, is going to really, really shine through until teams can really settle into their structure and kind of get going. I mean, I know a lot of the guys on the Tampa Bay Lightning, those guys never left. So they weren't allowed to skate as a team and do all that stuff during the break. But, none of the guys actually left town. They all stayed there. So the day that facilities were able to open up for, optional team workouts, those guys from the Tampa Bay Lightning were back out on the ice. So yeah, they had a 2-week training camp, but they had about a 2 to 3 week period before that where they were able to start getting back out on the ice. So, I think guys are going to get better as the first round goes along because conditioning is going to get a little bit better. But ultimately, I think guys have had enough time on the ice to sort of start to find, their feel for things.
I was watching one of the baseball shows, and they were just talking that managers can't rely on the past. The season's too short. Don't you think the same can be said for coaches with goaltenders? You may have had a guy this year that you were riding. If your number one starts going south quickly, how long can you stay with the goaltender when we're compressing this playoffs into such a short time?
Well, especially in the qualifier round, guys. I mean, you're talking about a best of 5, and you look at like the New York Rangers. You look at Columbus. I mean, there's a handful of teams that sort of have a 1A and 1B situation. They were talking about it in the broadcast the other night that Shesterkin on the New York Rangers is probably going to get the nod for Game 1, but you don't have a good showing in Game 1 of a best of 5. I mean, Lundqvist is coming right behind him. And I'd say that probably goes for a lot of these teams with these situations where, you aren't exactly positive who you're going to ride in the playoffs because, a best of 5, you obviously do not have the same leisure that you have in a best of 7 where you're able to sort of regain momentum, go on the road, win a game, win 2 games, and then come back home. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be very intense early on, which I think is going to make it even better, even more suspenseful than we, would typically see. And I know you two are big hockey guys. I did a little homework on you guys, and you guys know the first round of the playoffs, I mean, sometimes can be absolutely incredible with the speed and the pace and the physicality. So, I think it's going to be interesting to watch. I think we're going to see a lot of fun storylines. We're going to see a lot of things that, we've never seen before, which is kind of par for the course with everything going on.
Of the 8 5-game series, 6 of them involved teams that were separated by 4 points or less. So those are obviously complete toss-up series. But there are 2 series. Edmonton was 11 points ahead of Chicago, and Pittsburgh 15 points ahead of Montreal. Which underdog do you give the best shot in those series? Because those would be genuine upsets. Do you give Chicago or do you give Montreal the best shot of getting out of it?
Well, I'd have to give it to Chicago, and because when you have Patrick Kane on your roster and you've got Jonathan Taves on your roster, you've always got a chance. I mean, those are guys who are so good. I mean, Patrick Kane, it's hard to even explain how good he is. When you're on the ice against Patrick Kane, he just does things that, no one else but maybe 2 or 3 guys in the whole league can do. I mean, the puck is glued to his stick. Like, you almost want to check his blade to see if he's using double-sided tape because of how much that thing sticks on his stick. I mean, I think that Chicago definitely has a chance to give Edmonton a run for their money. But, you look at Montreal, they've got Carey Price, they've got Claude Julien, who's their coach, a guy that I got to spend a little time around in Boston. He is a great coach. He knows how to game plan. He knows how to put his players at the right strengths. And, they're going to be going up against Sidney Crosby and Malkin and a lot of star power on that Pittsburgh team. And, I think it's easy to just think, oh, Pittsburgh's going to roll over Montreal. But, ultimately, I think Claude Julien will get his team to a competitive level there with Montreal. And, I expect to see a good series.
Talk about Kane. He was a teammate of yours when you played with the developmental team in the U.S. I would have to imagine that there were some practices that you were shaking your head after. Because if you're a D-man having to do drills against Patrick Kane for a couple of hours, I'm guessing he made a lot of D-men look silly at that time.
Oh, man, did he ever. I mean, I never really had a good spot in the lineup come Friday night because I never looked very good in practice going against him all week. I mean, he is, as far as guys that I've consistently been on the ice with, I mean, it's hard to find a guy who is better than, his skill and his talent is just so good, and his work ethic. I mean, the guy works harder and harder as his career is going along. I mean, he's somehow getting better every year. He hit his ceiling and then he busted through the ceiling. I mean, it's incredible to watch. And, when we were playing together at the U.S. national program, you knew he was really good, but I'd be lying to you if I told you he was going to end up being one of the best players who literally ever played in the NHL. Because when you're that age, you don't really know how to evaluate other players. You don't really know how to project other players. Even as you get a little bit older and you watch and you start working in the media like I have, it still takes a little bit of time to understand and learn how to truly evaluate someone. But, oh, man, I mean, you take it for granted a little bit. I've been fortunate to do the Winter Classic twice, I think, that Kane's been involved at. And when you broadcast the Winter Classic with Westwood One or NBC, it doesn't matter. We sit right on the glass to call the game. Doc and Eddie are to our right, and then, we're right to the left of them in a little makeshift booth. And just getting to watch him play at this level, from ice level, like I have got to broadcast those Winter Classic games. I mean, it's just, he plays the game at a different level than other players. I mean, he really does. He's not 1 or 2 steps ahead of everybody. He's 5 steps ahead of everybody because, his brain is operating at such a high level to match what's going on with his hands and his feet. I mean, he's just incredible. I'm and it's not bias in me either. He just is that good.
Colby, we all know who the favorites are. Give me a team that if they can get out of the first round, if they can get going, that you think is most dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, it's a team that I see a lot, and it's the Flyers. I think that they had a great regular season, a really good, maybe not great, but a really good regular season. They've got a lot of good pieces, and, they've got toughness. They've got secondary scoring. Their defense core is really good. obviously, look, I don't put them in the same category that I put Tampa Bay, because I think Tampa Bay is, playing at a different level already. But I do think that the Flyers have an opportunity, especially if they end up with Pittsburgh potentially in that first round and they beat Pittsburgh. The boost you get from winning against Sidney Crosby, if they get the goaltending, I think that they're a team that can push. I really do. I think Sean Couturier is built to be a star in the playoffs. He's a center for the Flyers who has got some accolades this year. His game has been really good. The Flyers just got Oscar Lindblom, who comes back from beating cancer. It does not look like he's going to play in the playoffs, but he is on the 31-man roster. He has been cleared to start skating and training with the team. And look, he's got, a pretty good amount of time here to start getting himself back into shape, skating with the team every day, riding the bike. Just having him around, I think, is a huge morale booster. I think that, the chance that you could potentially see him later in the playoffs, I think would be huge. But, if I had to pick a team that, again, they obviously did well this year. They got into the round robin where they don't have to play in a qualifier. But I would say when, the analysts and the experts are sort of picking their teams to win, you do not see many teams who do think that the Flyers can continue what they did in the regular season. And I do think that, the way that they play, their personnel, I think that they have an opportunity to make a little push here in the playoffs and make some noise. But, I think this year more than anything, guys, I think it's going to be really exciting because we really don't know what to expect. I mean, I think injuries are going to play a huge part in the playoffs this year, more than they normally do. And I'm not really talking, coronavirus injury. I'm talking more when things ramp up, guys who haven't gone through their paces of playing, the last 20, 30 games of the season. Their bodies aren't used to getting run into, getting hit all the time. Who are the teams that, are able to, not sustain the groin, the back, the hip, the shoulder, those types of injuries, who's going to be healthy. So I think this year more than any, it's exciting because nothing would surprise me.
Colby, thanks for your time. We really appreciate it. Best of luck broadcasting the playoffs with Westwood One, and hopefully during the playoffs we can talk again.
Absolutely. You guys know where to find me.
Colby Cohen.
Thanks, Colby.
Won a national title as a BU Terrier. Was part of the 2011 Bruins. Ended up getting a Stanley Cup ring with them. You can follow Colby on Twitter at ColbyCohen36, ColbyCohen36. And our Stanley Cup playoff coverage begins tomorrow with one of those series that we talked about, Chicago and Edmonton. We'll say this about the Flyers. Their coach has taken two different teams to the finals. Hasn't won it yet, but he took Vancouver and the Rangers to the finals. So he's been through it before, even if a lot of those guys that he's coaching have not.
Hey, you're on to something there. You've been talking about the Flyers for a while. People that I know that watch the game a lot, been talking about the Flyers for a while. It's a good Philadelphia Flyers team that could do some damage in the postseason.
And if they beat Pittsburgh, the confidence that they'd have playing either likely Boston or Tampa Bay, and Philly can skate with those two teams. All right. I mean, listen, we all know what has haunted the Flyers for 30 years. Goaltending. They just haven't gotten the goaltending. Even when they've gone to the finals, they've had shaky goaltending. Miller and Moulton. Today was the day when, and we'll find out who it's sponsored by when we come back on Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Drive home with the Doug Gottlieb Show.
This was Chris Jones, of course, re-signed with the Kansas City Chiefs extension.
This is only the beginning. Be prepared to have another parade and another parade.
I love the fact he's doing homework on us.
Hey.
Boy, do you think we're a bunch of yahoos?
Well, I think going on in Florida, they go, Jesus, what am I getting myself into?
In football.
Doug Gottlieb, afternoons at 3 on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Hardee's presents the new spicy Western Bacon Cheeseburger. It's just like the Western Bacon Cheeseburger with charbroiled beef, crispy bacon and onion rings, and topped with tangy barbecue sauce. But we added spicy jalapenos and melty pepper jack cheese. We took a burger that was already delicious and spiced it up. Why are we using this whip crack to explain it? Because jalapenos sound like this. Try the new spicy Western bacon cheeseburger at Hardee's. Feed your happy. Limited time only at participating Hardee's restaurants. Price and participation may vary. Hardee's presents the Southwest Omelet, Biscuit, and Burrito. Wanted in 42 states on charges of bringing a sweat to the brow of breakfast lovers with low spice tolerance. We start with a made-from-scratch biscuit. And then we add a fluffy omelet full of melted cheese, crispy bacon, and spicy jalapenos. And if you're feeling extra wild, you can get it all wrapped up in a burrito. The Southwest Omelet, Biscuit, and Burrito are back, only at Hardee's. Feed your happy. Limited time only at participating Hardee's restaurants. Price and participation may vary.
Attention, Southwest Florida. It's not too late. You can still get $8,000 over Kelly Blue Book value for your trade-in, but only at Naples Nissan. Hundreds of new SUV models to choose from, all backed by our exclusive unlimited mile lifetime warranty. Pick out your favorite at NaplesNissan.com. Then come see us on Pine Ridge Road to find out the KBB.com current market value for your trade-in. We'll give you $8,000.
So the daughter tells me yesterday, David, she says, Dad, I got to tell you something. Don't tell Mom, though. I always love that. And I get the... I couldn't sleep last night. I was so excited about vacation, I stayed up all night and watched videos.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Great. That's fantastic.
Well, it was yesterday afternoon. I play a little bingo game on my phone for fun, and she'll play it with me. And she had her head, her head's on my shoulder, and I said, you tired, honey? Yeah, Dad. You want to take a nap? Yeah, Dad. So we both shut it down for an hour yesterday. It was glorious.
Oh, yeah.
Daughter, dog, me.
Boom, boom, boom.
3 across from the bed. Got an hour. Felt great.
And it's not just the many colors of Cortec that you have. You also have other Cortec products.
So the other, I was going to start doing this because I actually have to start writing my blood pressure down every day. I've not been doing it last week. He put me on new medicine. He goes, you're over 50, man. You got to go buy a cuff. It's a rite of passage. So I was thinking about taking my medicine before the show, and at least every day during one of the breaks is when I'll do it. Join us on Twitch. Mark's going to check his blood pressure again. Brought to you by
Rheingold Extra Dry.
By Jenny Cream Ale.
I'm going to make this, unless you got one.
Oh, I've got one for this one.
Okay.
I've got one for this one.
Rheingold Extra Dry. Never sweet, never bitter, pleasantly dry.
You're looking up taglines. I'm just making mine up.
No. That is Rheingold.
That's what I said. You're looking up the taglines.
Yeah. Never sweet, never bitter, pleasantly dry. There was a Rheingold song.
And it's conveniently located in Cape Coral. With more than 75,000 frameless shower doors installed, no one has more experience and 5-star reviews than My Shower Door. We've been named #1 by readers of the News Press and Naples News for 17 consecutive years and have just been named as Lee County's manufacturer.
I saw the Rheingold truck in The Godfather just yesterday.
MyShowerDoor.com.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau here, owner of D.R. Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. We're still finding a lot of roofs.
John could not have been listening during the captain's cabin because we'd have gotten texts.
Totally.
DRM Roofing, or call 239-332-1441.
Tell them it's about 5 to 7. It went stabbing cabin on them.
Now back to Miller and Moulton. No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
7 minutes before the top of the hour. Final day of July. Final show for us for a little over a week. We'll be back on Monday the 10th with Phil Steele, talking plenty of college football here on Miller and Moulton. Without further ado, time now for
Miller and Moulton's Today Was the Day When, giving you the history of today's date so you're a beacon of useless knowledge around the office.
Useless, but a lot of fun to talk about.
This is Today Was the Day When, Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
And David, today was the day when, brought to you by the Witch's Brew in Naples. If you're looking for that second wife, who's been widowed and still has a lot of money. Join us for happy hour for the 10-cent oysters and the original home of finding a rich cougar, the Witch's Brew on Tamiami Trail in Naples. We start in 1932. The Cleveland Indians christened their new home at Municipal Stadium before more than 76,000 fans and do what Cleveland does best. They lose 1-0 to Philadelphia. That was the A's at the time. 1954, first baseman Joe Adcock becomes the third player in the 20th century to hit 4 home runs in a 9-inning game. Lou Gehrig, Gil Hodges the other, in a 15-7 win over the Brooklyn Dodgers. 1961, the 31st All-Star game, and David, it was the second All-Star game of the year. We need to point that out because we played 2. This one at Fenway was the first tie in history, 9 innings, 1-1, called due to rain, not because they were out of pitchers. 1965, cigarette advertising was banned on British television. I just want to let you know that I can't even imagine seeing a smoke ad. It's hard enough thinking that we had the early 70s smokeless tobacco ads.
I love the old Carstens in which they're drinking and smoking on set.
Well, and the one where what's-his-face keeps ashing. Was it Dean Martin keeps ashing and what's his...
George Goebels drink, wasn't it?
Yes.
And that's when he turned to Johnny and said, Johnny, do you ever think the whole world's a tuxedo and you're a pair of suede shoes?
1971, as the singer-songwriter era is on top, James Taylor's You Got a Friend is the #1 song in the land. 1972, Chicago infielder Dick Allen becomes only the 7th player in Major League Baseball history to hit 2 inside-the-park home runs in a game, both off of Bert Blyleven, David.
How about that?
1976, we were cool because George Benson's Breezin' was the #1 album in the land. And if you listen to that and think that that was the #1 album in pop culture, you'll fall over. Pete Rose singles off a Phil Niekro to take his hitting streak to 44 games and tie Willie Keeler's 81-year-old National League record.
It would end the next day. He faced Gene Garber in the 9th inning, and Garber threw him a 3-2 changeup. And Rose was furious that he wouldn't challenge him.
1990, Nolan Ryan gets his 300th win. In 1997, Mark McGwire becomes the first top run home hitter to be traded in the middle of the season when he goes from Oakland to St. Louis. 2007, the Celtics get KG from the T-Wolves in that 7-for-1 deal. And Jimmy Walker in 2016 wins his first major, beating Jason Day at Baltusrol. If you were born today, a lot of great birthdays. Kurt Gowdy, born today in 1919. David Moulton's reason to get into this profession.
That's right.
Nick Bollettieri, the tennis coach, born today in 1931. We mentioned him earlier this week. Leon Bull Durham, born today in 1957. Bill Berry, drummer for REM, is 62, as is Mark Cuban. Kevin Green and Wesley Snipes, each 58.
Mark Cuban, 62?
Yeah.
Looks pretty good for
60. You're darn right he does. Scott Brooks, basketball coach, and J.K. Rowling, the writer of the Harry Potter novels, are both 55 years old today. Gus Frerotte hit his head into a wall. He is 49. Chris Wenke is 48. Jonathan Ogden, one of the largest humans to ever walk planet Earth, is 46. Tim Couch, 43. Zach Brown is 42. And then Getty Malkin is 34. 34. 34. 4.
Do you panic when someone says we need Malkin's to talk? 34? We need to
Yeah.
talk, but don't panic. This is a good kind of talk.
Jose Fernandez would have been 28 today.
They're just in the way of you having the freedom to enjoy a more flexible lifestyle. France Eye Care wants
AJ
to offer
Green's
you
$32 today.
$1,000
Where's he
off
going to play
bilateral
next year?
LASIK. The savings that will allow you to celebrate better vision and a better life. Dr. Jonathan France and his expert team of surgeons want to help you see your future
New
in
England.
2020 through the advanced technology of laser vision correction.
If all those defensive players were playing, you might be onto something. Who wants to go there right now?
No, you said next year, meaning 2021.
Yeah.
I think AJ Green in 2021 would be a Patriot. Yeah.
LASIK special financing options available. It's time for you to experience better vision and a better life. Dial ** 2020 from your mobile phone.
So my favorite Witch's Brew story, and I don't know his name.
Is this for me or the audience?
Both. It's very quick. If you have to go somewhere, go. But a local golf pro was cheating on his wife with a very wealthy woman that he met at the Witch's Brew. And he, for years, just said he was giving her golf lessons, and she left him $4 million in her will.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
That's right, $4 million for sleeping with an old lady.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor, the Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Your old pool pump is an energy hog and likely your second greatest user of electricity. We'll install a new Pentair energy-efficient pump, saving you over $500 a year. We're a family company, and for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133. State certified CPC 057088.
WFSX AM from Naples to Cape Coral and all of Southwest
Jesus.
Florida. 94.1 Fox Sports Radio. We are Fox Sports. Here's what's trending now. Brought to you by the Center for Men's Health. C4MH.com.
Hello.
Mike, good morning. Mark Miller and David Moulton in Southwest Florida.
How you guys doing today?
We're doing great. How about yourself?
Doing great.
We're literally about 15 seconds from going on. David goes first. I go second. As always, we really appreciate your time. And we get to talk about football for a change. How fun is this?
How about that?
Jeez.
Good stuff.
The last 2 days have been great on the show. We've talked about sports for the first time in 150 days.
It's been crazy for sure.
There it is. All right. Thanks again, Mike.
Yep, that's it. Miller.
But since we can't sit next to one another, I was thinking about the first break, toasting my English muffin and saying, hey, it's English muffin time during the starting five.
And Moulton.
Love BOGO English muffins. You throw one on the counter, you throw the other in the freezer.
There you go.
For a week, then you take it out. When you've got BOGO, it's like, hey,
knock yourself out.
Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
Oh, I like it. It's up to you now. It's up to you. I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Third and final hour of Miller and Moulton on this final day of the month of July. Thanks for so much for being with us on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. We're streaming at millerandmoulton.com, and we're broadcasting live on Miller and Moulton's YouTube and twitch.tv channels as well. Mike Griffith of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. He covers the SEC and college football for the AJC. He's kind enough to join us right now. Follow Mike on Twitter at MikeGriffith32, MikeGriffith32. Mike, first off, it's been a while. Hope you and the family are safe and doing well through all this. You okay?
Yeah, staying busy, man.
Well, finally, that is for sure. How surprised were you that the SEC did not duplicate what the ACC had done the day before, and that the Georgia Tech game and those type of rivalry games are lost?
Yeah, I'd heard the night before that they might be going conference only with no non-conference games. Mildly surprised from the sense that there were 4 SEC teams that lose rivalries, but, the SEC's got to do what's in the best interest of the SEC. And, the irony for me here is, for all the slams and stereotyping and negativity you hear from maybe the North about the football crazed South, we're just all so crazy down here and so rabid that we're all reckless. And yet it's the SEC that looks like it's going to be the last league returning to football that's taken the most cautious approach.
Mike, is it the most cautious approach? And my only question of starting late is looking at what happened to the Marlins and an outbreak. If something happens in football, and it seems inevitable that there are going to be teams that have players that contract the virus, do you not allow yourself rescheduling time by starting 2 weeks late. My only thought about starting, on time, if you will, or moving it up to earlier September is it gives you some outs if something bad happens. Are there outs if something bad happens?
Yeah, there's a couple bye weeks in there, but as far as the Marlins, let's stop acting like they were victims. Didn't we find out that those guys kind of went out looking for trouble? I mean, is it what happened to the Marlins or what the Marlins made happen? I mean, we're talking about grown adults here that didn't adhere to the protocols that were in place, right? So I think to some extent you got to hold people responsible for their actions. I mean, listen, this virus is happening to all of us, but now that it's here, it's up to us to follow the proper protocols to protect ourselves and protect our families. I mean, it's hard. One guy goes out to the bar and socializes with 30 people, and another guy stays home. I mean, there's a difference, and so I want to make that distinction first. But I think also the issue with me with the whole COVID-19 thing is this: I do think it's going to exist whether there's football or not. I do think that the fact that these young guys get tested and are around other people who are tested is a safer situation for them than if they weren't in that football building around others who'd been tested. If they were back home at the local gym or back home in their local communities at the church, maybe around family members who are in higher risk groups. So there's a couple of things there I guess I want to throw out first is kind of, I don't know if disclaimer is the right word, but just to kind of put my thoughts out there on that. Now that we're talking about football season and best case scenario, there are going to be protocols in place. And if the guys don't follow them, they're going to be putting their teammates and their team at risk. It's unfortunate, but it's kind of where we're at. As far as scheduling later rather than sooner, I do think you're right in the sense of you don't build in the potential for as many bye weeks or game cancellations. The flip side, though, is that you buy yourself a few weeks to really kind of go to school, see what happens in the NFL, see what's happening with those other games, and maybe, give yourself a few more weeks for the potential for a vaccine or potential for a better treatment or a better plan. So I think it's a mixed bag. I think it's a unique approach, and I think it's the most conservative approach of the conferences I've seen so far.
He's Mike Griffith of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. You can follow Mike on Twitter at MikeGriffith32, MikeGriffith32. Let's get to scheduling. Is there any more information that either you're aware of or that they released? I heard they're going to try to play 10 games over 12 weeks. 1 week in September, 5 in October, 4 in November, and they're giving themselves the first 2 weeks, with the second week being a bye week. Right now, there would be no games played between the first week, end of the regular season, and the SEC championship game. But they talk about there's going to be a middle of the season bye. Is everyone going to have that week off? Or is it going to be like the NFL where some schools have it off this week, some schools have it off that week?
I think it's going to be staggered, based on my conversation with the Georgia athletic director yesterday. The one universal bye week will be the week before the SEC championship game, which is the 19th. So December 12th, everyone's idle. So that tells you that December 5th is the final week of the regular season now. I would guess those other bye weeks would be staggered to some extent. As far as the opponents, a couple months ago, I threw the model out there. Maybe it wasn't a couple months ago. Whenever it was, when the Big Ten and the Pac-12 went to their 10-game conference only, I threw that model out there for the SEC, where it would be an accelerated cross-division opponent. So, for example, whoever your next two cross-division opponents are that you would play in the cycle, which is already predetermined, that would be the 2 games you would add. The whole idea of doing that is you want to see as many teams as you can from that other side of the division, and it balances out over time. That again, that's predetermined. It doesn't have anything to do with anybody trying to set anybody up or make it any harder on anybody than anybody else, because I've already heard some whining and complaining because some people don't like the way that projects. But to me, that's, that was predetermined, and that seems like the only real fair way to do it. Otherwise, you're putting a schedule together that you're guessing is balanced. And any way you do it, there's going to be winners or losers. But the thing that the people that are complaining need to remember is that as things stand, there's winners and losers. So let's just call out the elephant in the room and the whiny Florida fans that want to complain because it looks like Georgia, if they go with this accelerated cross-division schedule, would get Arkansas and Mississippi State, and Florida would draw Alabama and Texas A&M. I didn't see any or hear any Gator tears when Georgia already had Alabama and Auburn, and Florida had a completely rebuilding LSU and Ole Miss. And not to mention that Georgia's administrators that are quickly aging and on the way out the door are still, drunk on the cocktail juice and want to play at Florida, even though it's a pandemic year and there won't be any fans there, and it's a greater risk to their own program.
Well, that is that, because they don't want to go to Gainesville the next year and play in front of 90,000 fans.
Well,
wait
a minute. Are you telling me we're going to have you got the cure for COVID-19? Are we going to have 90,000 there next year?
Well, in 2021, theoretically, if they go to Georgia, Florida would want a home game, and Georgia would not want to go to Gainesville.
Wait a minute. Florida tells me how much they love playing in Jacksonville. How about this? How about this idea? How about Jacksonville, which has been taking $35 million in every year for the game? This is just an idea. How about they show some interest in what's best for the kids here? How about that? Wait a minute. What? Jacksonville, the stadium, give back? Gosh, that'd almost be like asking them to have lighted parking lots so people don't get killed after games, which happened a couple of years ago.
Well, what would you want? What do you suggest that Jacksonville does?
I think that they should give Georgia out if they want one. But the good news for them is that some of the Georgia administrators don't want the out. I know Kirby Smart probably would. But I would think in a year like this, when there's a pandemic, that you would say, you know what? You're right. There's a greater risk. But here's a bigger question. How much money is Jacksonville going to make if there's no tailgating and a limited number of fans?
No, I'm with you. I mean, obviously, the reason that Jacksonville pays for the game is they make it up and then some. Just Mike, listen, we have been fans of wanting this to be a home-and-home series or a 1-1-1 series, home, away, neutral. So we're fans of. We loved it the 2 years that they had it home and home, and Gator fans love it because they went 2-0. But we just think it's better for the sport if they play in between the hedges and in the swamp. But who ultimately makes the call on this game? Does Jacksonville make it?
Yeah. Well, they've got the contract through 2023, and listen, it's a great deal for Florida. If you're Florida, I mean, buy another drink for the Georgia fan and invite him back, because this has been the biggest ripoff for Georgia for decades. I mean, yeah, we're going to call it a neutral site. Ha ha ha. We're 70 miles from our campus, and you're 340 miles from yours. Now, neither one of us can have recruits at the game, but guess what? Gainesville's only a 70-minute drive from that stadium. Georgia, I don't think the kids are going to drive 5 hours north on that weekend. So this has been the biggest get over for Florida. And like I said, congratulations to Florida. They're smart. They've done a great job. Spurs even said it. I interviewed Steve last summer. He said, yeah, we always kind of thought it was our advantage. We used to call it the Gator Bowl, and, we get on a bus and they get on a plane. And Georgia goes, well, our plane ride it takes, okay, but what about your bus to the airport? Or are we going to pretend like that's not happening, that you're not meeting at the locker room, and now you all got to load on a bus, and now you got to unload off a bus, now you got to load up on an airplane, now you got to sit on the tarmac for 20 minutes, now you got to land, now you got to unload. I mean, and then you're going to play down there at the same climate that Florida's been practicing in. Listen, there's a reason why, teams that fly, and there's trends for this over time, the home teams have an advantage. And, they can split the tickets up, but in terms of the travel and the ease and the amount of parents and such that can be there, it's an advantage for Florida. The fact that Georgia's willing to do it, maybe there was a time where for Georgia, that was the best trip of the year. There wasn't an SEC championship game. The importance of recruiting weekends wasn't as big. I mean, here's the deal. I mean, look at this. Georgia's only got 4 home games this year. Everybody else is going to have 5. Georgia's got 4 home games. Everybody else will have 5. Florida will have 5 home games and a 70-mile trip to Jacksonville. There's a discrepancy there.
Yeah, Kirby's talked about it, Mark, a lot. That's the biggest reason why Kirby has argued for making it a home and home. He says, I lose a marquee home recruiting weekend every other year.
There is no doubt. And can we, Mike, I want to advance this. We talked about this a little bit, and now the championship game's getting pushed back. Do you anticipate a full bowl schedule, a New Year's Six bowl schedule plus the playoffs and a handful of others, or virtually no bowl games? How do you think we do the postseason this year?
Well, I mean, a lot of that will be dependent upon COVID, obviously. We just talked a moment ago about how Jacksonville relies on fans in the stands to make their $35 million a year off of Georgia people and some of the Florida people going to that game. Bowls are the same. I'm a glass half full guy. I want to believe that by the time the bowl games come around, that there'll be enough, that we'll be far enough along where we'll be able to have at least limited attendance, because it's really as much as they make their money off of attendance, it's also television money. So I think bowls could get by on limited attendance. And the reason I think that is because they have been, right? I mean, we look around and there's been years that, the Outback Bowl hasn't been full. That used to be a favorite of mine in Tampa. And, in other bowls, you see some of these other bowl games, the stands are half full. But why are they playing? Well, because there's television money involved. Now, the New Year's Six especially, big television money involved in the New Year's Six. So strongly believe that the New Year's Six bowls will be in existence. And I think there'll also be a lot of the other bowls that will be in existence because of the television money. I mean, everybody's got to try and recruit some losses, these athletic departments, and the television money is how they're going to do it.
Mike, how much of an advantage do you think the Wake Forest transfer, because he got in there about 4, 5, 6 months earlier, has over the USC transfer at the quarterback position?
Well, they're two different guys, and George's, I think it'll be the Wake guy early, but they're two completely different guys, I think. And, they both want the same thing, but I think their skill sets are a little bit different. I think it's a process at Georgia, not a competition at quarterback. And Jamie Newman is a guy who, with all the newness that Georgia has, new offensive coordinator, talented but rebuilt offensive line, influx of young talent at receiver, pretty much a new backfield with DeAndre Swift and Brian Herring moving on. All that newness means that your playbook's not going to be as thick. And that means that your quarterback's going to have to do more. So you go from the point guard mentality with Jake Fromm, the distributor, the guy that can go to the line, that can call the plays, that can check, that can get through all 3 or 4 progressions, to a guy that, can extend plays with his legs, to a guy that is a little bit more effective with the RPOs. Now, Jamie Newman wants to run more of a pro-style offense, and he's going to get some of those principles with Todd Monken. But coming out of the gate, George is going to have to keep it pretty simple. You can only execute, you can only be successful with what you can execute. You can have the thickest playbook in the world, but if you can't execute it, that doesn't do you a darn bit of good. Quarterback can have all these audibles, but if 2 or 3 receivers aren't on the same page, it turns into Georgia, South Carolina, where, your quarterback throws 3 picks because the receivers go the wrong way twice and another guy has the ball go off his hands. So you're really relying at quarterback on the talent around you and what they can do. So that's why I think early on Jamie Newman's the guy, because Jamie can do some things athletically, and he gives you that ability to be versatile with his talents. Eventually, I think Georgia will end up with a pro-style offense, more a pro-style offense again. Now, will that be this year? Will that be next year? I don't know. But I think JT Daniels, if you know his background, I think he comes in as that kind of more of that kind of guy, whereas Newman is coming out of Dave Clawson's Clawfence, which was, kind of a hybrid RPO, looking for a little bit more of a pro style.
Is A&M the best? Do they have the best opportunity to take the West from Alabama, or do you see this rebuilt LSU team, or perhaps Auburn? When you look at the West, who do you think's the best team not named Alabama to win it?
Guys, Alabama's only won the West once out of the last 3 years. I mean, I know what the perception is and what everybody says.
But they'll still be the favorite.
I guess they'll be the favorite by some. I don't know if they've decided on a quarterback or if they've got a defense yet. I think Auburn just scored again. I don't think I think we've already seen Alabama tail off a little bit. I think it's open in the West. I don't think it's Alabama's to lose. I think it's wide open. I think, as we talked about earlier, it's a completely rebuilt LSU. I mean, they had, I covered the NFL Combine. There were 16 LSU guys there. I mean, you talk about losing a hunk of talent. I mean, 16 guys. Now, there were 10 from Georgia and 10 from Alabama, too. But, LSU also lost their defensive coordinators, now the head coach at Baylor, and, Joe Brady, the guy that married Joe Burrow to the system. It was really about the players, let's face it. But you lose a guy like Joe Burrow in the season he had. I mean, he was like an NFL quarterback. He was a guy who was there 2 years and didn't have to step in the classroom. I mean, that's valuable when you've got a guy that can commit that much time. I still remember Tennessee losing a game at South Carolina because Josh Dobbs was studying for an aeronautics exam halfway through the week till 2 a.m. At LSU, they just say, "Come on down here and play. We'll get you online. You don't even got to go in a classroom. We'll retire your number." And that guy was good, man. Joe Burrow was amazing with that 2-year grad student. I guess he was a grad student, right? So, LSU's lost a lot. A&M, I'll be honest, I didn't see it with Kellen Mond. I mean, I saw him play here at Georgia, and Georgia's got a great defense, and it was a little rainy, but I didn't see it. I want to see it. Jimbo Fisher gets paid a ton of money, won a national title there at Florida State. I want to see it. It's a football crazy state, and you think A&M would be the newcomer that made the most impact, but so far Missouri's been more significant than A&M has as far as getting to the SEC championship game. And who would have ever thought that in 2012?
Mike, as always, we appreciate your time. We appreciate your insight. We're glad that you and your family are safe. Be well. We look forward to talking to you down the road.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great one.
Mike Griffith of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Follow him on Twitter, Mike Griffith AGC. Mike Griffith 32 on Twitter, Mike Griffith 32. He writes for the AJC.
And is in desperate need of a carbohydrate. Holy cow!
Well,
side of the bed did you get up on, dude?
Well, he went right at the Gator fan there.
And he whined more than the Gator fan for 20 minutes. No offense. He didn't answer any questions. He dodged every question and then just couldn't tell me how stupid I was for asking the questions I was asking. That was a joy. Can we do that every day? When's my vacation start?
No, I didn't hear it that way, but
a lot of people listening did, for the record, and that's what I'm answering, because I've got 5 texts and the whole Twitch chat room was commenting on it, but whatever. I still don't know who he thinks is the next best team in the West is. From what he said, it sounds like Alabama's going to win it, because he just pretty much ripped every team I said.
Well, he said he's not seeing it with A&M and that LSU has a ton of talent to replace. He just pointed out that, we pointed this out. Alabama's won 2 national championships without getting to Atlanta.
Okay.
All right.
Look, so, David, who's the favorite to win the SEC West?
Well, until proven otherwise, it's always going to be Alabama.
That's all.
Right. I think now scheduling doesn't usually have a ton to do with it in the SEC because they only play 8 conference games and they only play 2 from the other side. But now that they're going to play 10, and what most people are referencing, if you hear them talking about the rotation, the SEC has already established through 2025 who your one extra team is. Because let's face it, you play your division. Everybody has their yearly crossover, and then they only add 1 game on top of it. Like, example, for Florida, their rotation is next year, the extra game, it would be at Ole Miss. Well, then in 2022, that's this year. Next year's game is Alabama. 2022, it's at A&M. So the thought is the easiest thing for the SEC to do is just add the next 2 years' rotation games to this year's schedule. So what would happen? Florida adds Bama and A&M, 2 top 12 teams. I think A&M, top 15 for sure. All right, A&M I think will be in the top 15. And I think A&M's legit, by the way. I think
you've been saying that for 8 months, David. I mean, really, since football season ended, you're like, watch out for A&M next year.
Well, here's the deal. First off, I believe they returned the best quarterback in the conference in Kellen Mond. Mike doesn't see it with Mond. I do. Also, A&M will have this year, Mark. Remember the 2010 Auburn team? And they had this transfer coming in named Cam Newton, and we all wondered how he was going to play. But the one thing, I was high on that team because they had 24 fifth-year seniors. Jimbo's got 22 returning starters, and he's got about 24 fourth and fifth year guys who are key contributors on this team. This, in a year in which Alabama's retooling and LSU is retooling, this is A&M's moment. It's year 3 for Jimbo. He's got the horses. He's got no excuses. This is his year.
To David's point, 4 or 5 offensive linemen returning. And Phil Steele, who will be our guest in the 8 o'clock hour on our return show on August 10th, agrees with you, David. His preseason SEC team, Kellen Mond's his first team quarterback. So he's on your team with that to give a little backup as well.
But you could see where a Gator fan is like, blank. They thought they had, this was the year Georgia had to play Alabama, and they had to play them on the road. But if they add 2 more games, the next 2 in line for Florida are Bama and A&M, while the next 2 in line for Georgia are Arkansas and Mississippi State. Big edge Georgia. Big edge Georgia. When it looked like at the beginning of this year, scheduling edge Florida.
For the record, Gator fan, Phil Steele as your quarterback as the second all-SEC quarterback behind Mond with Trask. Miller and Moulton, thanks for listening. Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, and you are looking live on twitch.tv. Holy blank. What a miserable.
See, I like Mike because he doesn't give everybody the Kool-Aid they want to drink. He's a bit of a Georgia homer. I think we can all see that. But I like it when guys don't say what it is you expect them to say.
Friday afternoon against the Nets on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
I also like the fact he wants to play Georgia, Florida, home and home.
You need a store that's a constant, a store that has the brands your family loves,
and Mike hinted at it. The old Georgia administrators are leaving. Kirby's going to get his way on this. I think 2023 is the last time Florida Georgia is played annually in Jacksonville. I think beginning in 2024 it'll be home, and neutral.
Here to stay. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Mountain Dew Zero Sugar presents an original that's now maybe even better. Mary had a little lamb. Mary had a bottle of Mountain Dew Zero Sugar.
Memphis, I don't think if you're you want to know if during the bye week on December 12th will they play, say, Clemson, South Carolina. First off, we don't know if the ACC is moving their conference championship game from December 5th, and they may move it to the 12th or move it to the 19th. And I don't think Clemson's going to make their road to a national championship harder.
Dan Martineau here, owner of DR Martineau.
I think the best chance to make up the really marquee games that have been lost this year because of COVID scheduling is if we have a bowl season, in which they may just throw some of the matchups out the window. I could see conferences getting involved, and maybe this is a way Clemson, if Clemson's not in the playoff, which would be shocking, but if Clemson's not in the playoff, I mean, don't you think they find a way to have Clemson and South Carolina play in a bowl game, probably in Charlotte?
It's not too late. You can still get $8,000 over Kelley Blue Book value for your trade-in, but only at Naples Nissan.
Boy, did the lady laugh yesterday, David, when I had to reschedule my CAT scan to the other place because insurance wouldn't pay for it. I've used your line a lot. I just said to her, it is amazing how insurance dictates how our health care is run. And she just laughed. She goes, you are so right. This was the scheduling person at Radiology Regional.
Yeah, we got to take that back. We gave it away. Apparently, I think it's in the late 80s. that we did a couple things and we gave the power to the insurance companies. We got to take that back. They're for profit. They can charge what they need to charge. They can make their money, but yeah, the control.
But they can't determine what
Exactly.
they can't tell a doctor no.
Right.
That
They
should
can't.
not be allowed.
Exactly.
I
don't know. I don't know if I still have cancer or not. I mean, I'm sorry. That's unacceptable.
I got a call from a friend of mine yesterday. I haven't talked to him. He goes, "Hey, man," because he watches the show on here once in a while, and he goes, "How's your co-host doing?" I go, "Well, we think he's cancer-free, but we don't know because his insurance company won't let him get a scan until he has 90 days removed from surgery," which would seem like the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. But well, and then I laugh too because I got to pay for something for this thing today. That's my end. I go, all right. I just started laughing. I go, of course I do. And they just looked. I go, well, what am I going to do? Say no? And they just, like.
Yeah, well, they don't care because, they get their money no matter what. I mean, they can take your house. That's another thing that we've given them. Like, there are certain businesses and sectors that you can't come and take somebody's house away. Insurance companies and hospitals can take your house away. That's the other thing they've been given. They've been given that much authority.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Is your pool
Wow.
a pain to operate? Automation is the answer. Use your phone to turn on your spa, and it'll be warm.
And that's the other thing to realize with a healthcare crisis. You can lose your home.
And for over 40 years,
Credit cards can't come after your house. Hospitals and insurance companies can.
By the way, we've not brought this up today. Harvey Updike died yesterday.
574-1133. State certified CPC 057088.
I mean, not that we need to. Just...
Now back to Miller and Moulton.
All right, now we're getting somewhere.
No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
The home stretch of Miller and Moulton, 8:30. This is our final half hour for the next week and a half. We're taking next week off. We'll be back on Monday, the 10th. Phil Steele will join us for a half-hour conversation about college football. And, Mark, in a way, I'm glad that what has happened this week with college football has happened. Notre Dame forced into a conference because of coronavirus. I'm fascinated by how this is going to play out. Does Notre Dame run roughshod through the ACC with the exception of Clemson? All right, and they get to stand there and put their, fists on their hips and look out and go, see, told you. Or does the ACC actually get them? And Notre Dame can only go 7-3, say, in the ACC. And it bolsters the ACC while maybe taking Notre Dame down a peg. And we've talked about this, Mark. What drives college athletics? Angst. And we've got some big games that are not going to take place this year.
And with just what we talked about with Mike Griffin, if Florida now has to play Bama and A&M, we've developed a level of angst just inside the SEC East for 2020 that will be through the roof. Sports Talk Radio in South Carolina today will have a ton of angst. If you're bored, find whatever station in Columbia, South Carolina is doing Sports Drive in the afternoon and turn it on. I think it could be highly entertaining today.
Listen, radio stations, sponsors, they're going to try to somehow figure out a way. Can they get Clemson and South Carolina to go off the reservation and thumb their noses at? Because to them, this is the biggest thing in the world. They've played 111 consecutive years. It's the second oldest or longest continuous rivalry in the sport outside of Wisconsin, Minnesota. This is the old adage, if you only win one game all year, this is the game. Well, hell, what did Army and Navy come out and say a few weeks ago?
If we're going to play one game,
that's who we're
it's
playing.
Army versus Navy.
And I
period,
understand.
end of sentence.
Clemson's had all this success, and now it's national championship or bust. But you ask a Tigers fan today, they're not playing South Carolina. They're bummed. They want to play this game. Yes, they think they're going to win, but they want to play this game. This is what they grow up with. This is one of the staples of their life. There's death, taxes, and we play the Gamecocks.
And outside of the rivalry games disappearing, we have the SEC, which is doing something different with 10 games from 8. Now, I don't know if they roll it back to 8 next year. I don't know if they try to go 9 and split the difference. But we've said for a while, college football has an attendance problem. And fans have to pay a boatload of money just to keep their tickets. And every game are rewarded with 2 games on their schedule that aren't worth attending.
All right, I'm going to try not to go too behind the curtain here, but I think the 10 conference games is going to be very well received by the college football fan. In the ACC, if the Big Ten does it as well, I think college football fan is going to get more conference games and they're going to love it.
Not like it, love it.
Love it. Okay.
I'm with you.
Now schedules are set going forward for a little while. Also, TV contracts are in place. How does stuff change, Mark? Money, TV deals, the Big Ten contracts through 2022. The SEC contract with CBS is through 2023. ESPN, ABC doesn't take over until 2024. But what I really think this year and the extra conference games is going to do is it's going to have their TV partners love it and basically pay off the conferences, Mark. They're going to make Fox and whoever else gets involved is going to make the Big Ten an offer they can't refuse. And 9 conference games is going to become 10. And the same with the SEC. That ESPN ABC is paying all the money that they're paying. I mean, over $300+ million a year to take this contract away from CBS. Plus, they're in bed with them with the SEC network. And they're going to sit down and look at them and go, we need games. We need quality games. You got to do better than what you're doing now. 8 ain't working. And whether it starts immediately in the next TV deal, Mark, or they wait until the playoff goes to 8 and they say, hey, hold on. While it's still 4, we can't expand our conference games. But once in 2026 it gets to 8, well, then we can afford a few losses. So, fine. But I really think we will look back 5 years from now and say, that coronavirus year, when we had to play more conference games and everybody decided this is better, it will lead to, I think, every conference playing 10 conference games going forward.
Could get Notre Dame in a conference as well. The other side of this, David, and this is maybe the negative side, if you will, that some folks would think of as a positive. I don't think that there's much doubt that there are going to be football programs after this year that are on flat-out life support. Not Power 5 schools, because they're still going to get their TV money. But when you take all of these guarantee games that are now going away, I'm sure for cancellation there's some sort of buyout. I doubt it's the same as what they would have paid if the games happened. But, David, the Mid-American Conference, the Sun Belt, the Mountain West, you're telling me between now and the start of the 2021 football season, how surprised would you be if you hear that, I don't know, Eastern Michigan has ended their football program?
Mark, I thought I read yesterday that the SEC has $40 million in guaranteed games that they now think they can legally walk away from.
Just think about that for a second for these colleges that they're playing. That is, I'm guessing, anywhere between 10 and 25% of some of these schools' budgets that they're getting in guarantee games. The Kent States of the world that were playing both Penn State and Alabama.
Right. They weren't doing it for their health.
Or the health of their players.
Oh, yeah. That's what I mean. Right. Yeah, go out there and be a tackling dummy for 3.5 hours. And by the way, in a couple of weeks, you'll have to do it again. Yeah. But we're making $3 million on the deal. So
on you. We gave you your scholarship, so now go get your ass kicked so I can get my money back.
Right.
I am telling you, the other side of this is, to me, and I don't want to sound Armageddon guy, one, I think it's the right thing for the sport. You and I, for the longest time, have wondered when the Power 5 schools and whoever they're bringing with them, not taking UCF out of the mix, not taking Boise out of the mix, because some of them are coming with them. But I think this is the precursor for the Power 5 walking away, because I don't know how the non-Power 5 schools survive this, David.
Yeah, I mean, Conference USA, Sun Belt, MAC, I mean, the AAC and the Mountain West of the group of 5, they're the two that have some meat on the bone. they're legitimate. But Conference USA, Sun Belt, and the MAC, it's not that you can't have an individual team or two in those conferences, but as a whole, I mean, these conferences, I think, I really believe that they might as well go FCS.
And I think they should.
When this is all said and done.
I mean, we've already seen Cincinnati dump a bunch of sports, and Cincinnati's football team will survive. But Tulsa?
We can just go right down the list.
The Tulsas, the Temples, the Tulanes? I mean...
And 3 of the 4 you mentioned are in the AAC.
Well, I was just talking AAC teams. Well, that's what I mean.
Right, or actually all of them are.
I mean... The top teams, that's why I said I've got no worries about UCF long range. They probably are going to get invited to the dance with the Power 5 if it happens. I really believe that they will. They've got the alumni at that point. They've got a stadium. They've got they got enough student base to make the money.
Top 20 TV market.
Right. I mean, that's all there if that ever happens. But for the Tulanes of the world, it's not.
There's a part of me, and listen, hey, $40 million even to the SEC, that's a lot of money. I get it. All right. But if you divide it up by, it's less than $3 million a school. Now, I'm not saying that's chump change. But in the grand scheme of life, for these $100+ million athletic departments, I really believe, and this is where those that have argued that college football needs a commissioner, Tim Brando, if you're listening, that this is where you would want. And I don't know if Sankey would want to waste this much capital within his own conference, but there's a part of me here in which it's like, listen, we should honor these. I mean, because we know what this is going to do to these programs here. And listen, we're going to drop them, and then we think we can get out of the contract and not have to pay them, and they're going to sue us, and we're going to spend money on lawyers. Why don't we just strike a deal? Why don't we just write a check? It's for the good, quite frankly, it's for the good of the sport. It's not for the good of us, but it is for the good of the sport. Now, we all know it's not going to happen, but I really think it should. And I think Sankey, if not publicly, behind closed doors, he should say, hey, by the way, you want to talk about a PR? The rest of the country hates us and comes after us. What if we're the ones that we cut those checks? And we send them out.
And we get the agreements done. We tell them, hey, it's half, it's 30%, whatever it is. But get it out, get it done now.
So it's not going to happen. And you're right, Mark. This is going to lead to economic Armageddon with athletic departments. It really is. And there's a part of me that thinks that a lot of varsity sports, I brought this up a couple years ago, Mark. There is a part of me that wonders how much longer the NCAA is going to have all these sports at the quote-unquote varsity level. And at what point, like Stanford dropped the level.
Right. Now, most of them you didn't even – there's a lot of them you didn't even know were varsity sports, to be frank. You go look them up and go, really? That's a varsity sport? But Stanford is great at everything. They're the best-run athletic department in the country and have been for decades. And they take a lot of pride in their titles and everything.
They win the Sears Cup every year. I mean, they really do. They're the best athletic department in the country. All right? And they dropped 11 sports. And that's before football season. That's before the loss of revenue that's coming. And I really wonder, Mark, going forward, how many of these varsity sports are going to become club?
And by the way, that's a Pac-12 school, which I say that because their TV money is peanuts compared to what the Big Ten and SEC are getting. Just a little north of half, like 60% of what the Big Ten and the SEC get from television money. They dropped 11 sports. That's before they announced what was going on with football, where they're going to lose more.
Speaking of TV, if you're some of these other conferences, especially the one you just mentioned, if I'm the Pac-12, I start my schedule as soon as possible. I'm not going to have that big SEC game at 3:30. I'm not going to have those two ESPN Deuce games at 7:30 and 8 o'clock. All right. I got a chance to get my teams and my games seen here. Now, I understand the coronavirus, but if you're going to play, don't wait till September 19th, quite frankly. I mean, this is an opportunity for you. You're negotiating a TV deal here. Play some conference games at a time in which they can be seen. Just a thought. Boy, Gator fan, when this schedule comes out and they're adding Alabama and A&M to this year's schedule, and Georgia's adding Arkansas and Mississippi State, think about who Florida's got to play. Georgia at Tennessee, and then they got to play Alabama, LSU, okay,
and A&M.
I mean,
one Gator fan has no problem with it. Texted the show. He says, seriously, as a Gator fan, to add 2 more 3:30 CBS games would be great. I'd love to add 2 more great games for my team that I can watch. Yes, it would make the road more difficult, but hey, this is 2020. There is a Gator fan with some perspective.
The other way to look at it, though, is that Alabama would have to add Florida. And obviously, Alabama's got to play LSU, A&M, and Auburn.
Well,
and now that means Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee for Alabama. I mean, honestly, there's a chance. I mean,
one of the greatest SEC schedules ever.
They could be excellent. And if they go 8-2, you go, that's not bad.
And David, just think about this, because one, they're going to have to redo the dates and times. As Mike Griffin was talking about Alabama or talking about Georgia having to retool every game. Well, the thought was the first SEC game was Alabama.
Right.
Is it going to be?
I don't think so, because it was supposed to take place on September 19th. So that game's going to obviously get moved at least a week. But my guess is it gets moved.
I think so, too.
I think it's closer to, mid-season. And also just think, if Gator fan knows their schedule, tough game, and for the most part, it's, occasional bye week, weak sister, the poor. And, they're able to gear up for all their opponents. Alabama's done it brilliantly. If you look at Alabama's schedule, they have basically one challenging game a month.
Oh, they always schedule a cupcake before Auburn.
Right. And now they're not going to be able to do that.
By the way, they had Georgia State before Georgia. Okay? They had a bye week before LSU. They actually had to play A&M and Auburn back-to-back.
Right.
The last time that Alabama had 2 games that difficult back-to-back, Bear Bryant may have been the head coach.
So think about Alabama's schedule. They're not going to start until September 26th. Right now, their November schedule is LSU, A&M, and Auburn. And before November, they've got to figure out a way to play Georgia and Florida.
Miller and Moulton, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and some final thoughts before vacation when we come back. Fox Sports Radio streaming at millerandmoulton.com, and you're looking live on twitch.tv.
Welcome to the program.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
Daniel Snyder comes into focus.
Could you imagine if they go LSU, Georgia, Auburn, A&M, or A&M, Auburn? How much is CBS going to have to do with the new schedule? Anything?
Famous quote that Roger Goodell told the Saints before he handed out punishment for bounty games.
Just asking.
This will benefit ESPN though tremendously.
Oh,
Think about how
God, yes.
There will be so much more meat on the bone that ESPN most weeks will be like, we don't even care what game CBS picks.
Oh, right.
We'll be fine.
You and your family safe all the time.
Oh,
fine.
Frank, for Center for Men's Health.
Our 7:30 game will be incredible, probably every week.
Then testosterone. The single greatest issue for guys with low T is mood. And the single greatest change.
It will help CBS, though, in this respect, Mark. There were a couple weeks there where we didn't have a whole lot of options. Like, well, you pretty much got to run this game because the schedule sucks. Okay, that probably won't be the case now.
Can make in your life. I've been a patient of C4MH.com for a couple of years, and recently I've lost 20 pounds because now I have the energy to work out from home, and that'll put you in a good mood too.
People like to believe this. This is one of my stories. I did not realize that Dr. Stella Emanuel has said that Jesus Christ will destroy Facebook if the footage is not put back up.
Go to C4MH.com.
Dial star 2020. Friends, I care.
Do you panic when someone says this just in? I don't think Jesus cares. I could be wrong.
If there's anything, look at, if we're even going to buy Christianity, David, if there's one thing that Jesus Christ doesn't care about, I'm positive it's Facebook.
Right. Right. And I mean, I'm guessing he cares even less about Twitter, but I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Jesus wouldn't have a Facebook page.
Maybe he would like TikTok. I don't know.
I think the Chinese would bother him, though.
Could be, but he could throw a sermon out on it.
Well, that's true, and really hunk him off. Now, the lightning bolt's going to hit me any minute.
No, it's not.
Fort Myers.
God still following Justin Bieber?
Yes.
The Twitter handle?
Yes.
One
It's just
following
like a
one
Western bacon
Bieber?
cheeseburger with charbroiled
God,
beef,
that's
crispy
so
bacon
great.
and onion rings, and topped with tangy barbecue
That's
sauce.
so
But we
great.
added spicy jalapenos and melty pepper jack cheese. We took a burger that was already delicious and spiced it up. Why are we using this whip crack to explain it? Because jalapenos sound like this. Try the new spicy Western bacon cheeseburger at Hardee's. Feed your happy. Limited time only at participating Hardee's restaurants. Price and participation may vary. Hardee's presents the Southwest Omelet Biscuit and Burrito. Wanted in 42 states on charges of bringing a sweat to the brow of breakfast lovers with low spice tolerance. We start with a made-from-scratch biscuit. And then we add a fluffy omelet full of melted cheese, crispy bacon, and spicy jalapenos. And if you're feeling extra wild, you can get it all wrapped up in a burrito. The Southwest Omelet Biscuit and Burrito are back.
I
Only
suspect
at
Jesus
Hardee's.
is huge on
Feed
TikTok.
You're happy.
Yep.
Limited time only at participating Hardee's restaurants. Price and participation may
Andrew,
vary.
you're probably right.
It's Kaylee Kobe with
What
your
was that?
pulling tip of the day.
I suspect
Miller and Moulton fan. Okay, said I suspect Jesus is huge on TikTok.
Me too.
That's funny, Andrew.
Twice a year are Nate certified mechanics.
Freedom for you guys. Have fun. We'll do Heckle Hyde. That's right, Big Vol. Are you jerking my bobber? That's what Gator fans are saying right now when they heard about the schedule. They went, what? Are we really going to have to add Alabama and A&M? Are you jerking my bobber?
24/7, same low prices, never
I had to
another
explain
time
that
charge.
to my
When you
wife.
think of air conditioning companies,
did
we
no
hope you'll
fishing.
think of
Going
Kobe
on.
Cooling.
Here's how it works.
No nonsense.
Are you
no pressure,
jerking my
the company
bobber?
your neighbors use. License CACO
At which point I said, hey, anytime you want to jerk my bobber, let me know.
Most trusted name in the business since 1949.
Thank you for your business all these years.
From the best headlines
The best.
to the worst,
It's the worst thing that ever happened to anybody ever.
prepare yourself and hide the women and children. This is Mark Miller's Good, Bad, and Ugly on Fox Sports Radio.
You're live.
That stinks. Just put something down that I wasn't supposed to. For the good today, give me 1 second, David. Talks amongst yourselves because somehow I just closed my email right when I was supposed to read what's on the email. There we go.
Are you jerking my bobber?
Thank you, David. That's what I needed. No, I'm not. We go to North Carolina for today's good, where Daniel.
Mark, I'm sorry. Who's the good, the bad, and ugly brought to you?
Oh, it's going to come at the end.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No worries. The North Carolina man, Daniel Tobin, was a student at North Carolina State when he saw a stream near his dorm filled with plastic bottles. So for 11 years, he's been collecting trash, trying to clean up his neighborhood. The 31-year-old has collected more than 7,000 bags of trash. Started a Facebook page to show what people throw away. That is devotion, David.
It is.
For the bad, we go to South Carolina where, money laundering is always thought of as something that's trying to get rid of, drug money or whatever. But a person living near Seoul thought that the coronavirus may be on her money. So she washed it. And it was 50,000 won. Now, before you get all upset, that's $42. And she reached out to the Bank of Korea to find out whether it could be exchanged for new bills. Under bank rules, exchange of damaged, mutilated, and contaminated banknotes was not able to do. She lost all of her money. Finally, the ugly. A woman had had enough of her husband making a mess. So she put up a pretty good way to point that out. She recorded herself putting mini middle fingers, say that 10 times fast, figurines everywhere where he left a mess, and then took pictures of them to post on social media. So from that, it got more than 6.4 million views, and Amazon no longer is able to provide people with many middle fingers because they've sold out of them because of it. And David, that is the good, the bad, and the ugly, brought to you by Strikers Billiards, where there's not just 8 balls on the table. Strikers Billiards in Bonita Springs, maybe the least classy place in Southwest Florida.
Miller and Moulton had a fun time today, attaching sponsors who are no longer with us to segments, since we have so many segments that don't have sponsors. All right. We may continue to do this in August as well when we return a week from Monday on the 10th. I mean, it'd be nice if over the course of the next 9 or 10 days, Mark, while you and the family are on vacation, if you could have a crisp, cool Rheingold Extra Dry. That's right, Rheingold. Never sweet, never bitter, pleasantly dry. Rheingold Extra
Dry. Well, we leave for vacation. I will say college football. Does the Big Ten come up with a 10-game schedule between now and when we're back?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think the SEC forced their hand.
Big 12 has their meeting Monday. And so I would expect later Monday afternoon or on Tuesday, the Big 12 comes out. Here's the interesting thing about the Big 12. The Big 12's thinking about just
keeping on.
Keeping on. You guys got your schedules, and I know some of you have SEC or ACC or whatever games, and you're going to have to find new opponents, but knock yourself out. I mean,
and the ACC is going to have to be paying particular attention to what the Big 12 is doing, because they added that one game. The ACC thought they were adding SEC teams. Right. And now we have the Pac-12, the Big 10, and the SEC who have said we're playing conference-only games.
Now, my understanding is the ACC, if you read their release closely, said, and the option of a non-conference game. So in theory, the ACC could say, upon further review, we've decided to just play our 10 conference games this year. But they left that out there with the clear intent, hoping that the SEC would keep their 4 traditional rivalry games, and then the other schools would figure it out.
I think you'll see the AAC schools frantically calling all ACC ADs and Big 12 ADs today going, we're here. Just so you know, if you need to make up any of those ACC, SEC crossover games, we're available.
Absolutely. Now you'll have to go on the road.
Right.
Because the ACC has said you can only play a non-conference opponent within your own state. But, I mean, there's Georgia Tech, Clemson, Florida State, and Louisville, who all need opponents. And once again, if you're UCF, hey, I'd call Clemson if I'm UCF right now. Absolutely.
1 minute.
And David,
I'd call Florida State for sure.
One more big question. We've talked about the little conferences, Conference USA, Sun Belt, MAC. Do you think any of them, now that they all know that they can't play Power 5 schools, they're not going to have fans, they don't have TV contracts that pay them money to support the program, do you think we see between now and when we're back any non-Power 5 conferences cancel fall sports?
No, I do not. I do not, because it would look too bad. Quick reminder, this afternoon, we've got Orlando-Brooklyn NBA. Tomorrow afternoon, we've got NHL, Chicago and Edmonton. And Sunday, we've got NASCAR in New Hampshire. NBA, NHL, and NASCAR right here. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Mark, have a great vacation. Be safe.
I do. Stay safe as well, everybody. You too, David. And we will talk to you on August 10th.
All right, you guys enjoy your weekend, and whoever's going on vacation, have fun.
I'm the one going on vacation, Jiro, and I will. I'm getting the hell away from life for a while.
Jiro's, I'll meet you Saturday night at the Stabbing Cabin.
Thanks, Jiro.
Be good.
All right, you guys take care.
Oh. It's funny. I did send Mike a thank you, even though he was a blankety blank this morning. He's like, enjoyed it. Love your area. Want to move there someday. Everybody. So does everybody.
Yeah. Get in line.
You got a Mad Dog show this weekend, someone asked?
Nope. Kind of bummed. Was hoping to get back in the rotation. I need the money.
Hey, thanks, everybody. We will see you all in a week.